to the MMA Roadshow, episode number 83. My name is John Morgan. Cold Coffee is with me. We are here in Las Vegas. A handful of very special guests around tonight. I am ashamed that we did not do this sooner because as I look around with the wild turkey here, the burning cigars over here, the frosty beverages over here.
There's a little tequila in the corner.
I think, what the hell did we not do this sooner for? We've got the folks from Phone Booth Fighting, good friends of the show, good friends of mine. Richard Hunter, the host, is here with us. How you doing, my man?
Hi. Hey, John. Cold Coffee. Good to see you. Thanks for doing this with us.
Thank you. And Frank Mir, of course, has been kind enough to open up the stately Mir Manor to the first time to the MMA Roadshow, and I'm loving it, man. You can't say enough about the place here. This is a beautiful place.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And
is it Mir Manor or Mir Mansion?
Mir Manor.
Stately Mir Manor.
Mir Manor sounds creepier.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, of course, Angelo Reyes is here. Always, anytime Angelo Reyes can stop by, you know he's going to get on a microphone.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, John. Cold coffee. Thank you. Thank you.
We actually didn't even invite him. He just follows us on Twitter. He saw what we were doing, and I was like, oh. Well, no, of course. He put the whole thing together.
No, funny as it
he
is.
Actually made the whole thing.
I forgot to mention to my wife about that because all of a sudden, Alex had called that they're coming over, and all of a sudden, Britta walked in the kitchen. It's like, oh, Alex and Angelo are going to be here, and my wife's like, you just said it was Morgan and the cold coffee guy. I'm like, oh shit, I'm sorry. Yeah. Angelo's coming too. She's like, do you knew that the whole time? I'm like, oh, Angelo, he's always, come on.
Yeah.
She's like, how many people are going to be in our house? I'm like,
it might be a house party. Who knows?
Yeah,
Who knows?
maybe.
And we should say Alessandro Ricci, who was with us last week, is sitting over there as well. He's joined us again, kind of hanging out in the back. Now, we should say, of course, it is routine for the MMA Roadshow to do frosty beverages here. Now, Richard Hunter is he's earned a pass this night.
That's why I'm sponsored by Real Water. Give me that bottle of real water, Frank. This is, get real at drinkrealwater.com.
Literally never had a drop of alcohol in your entire life.
No. Somebody's got to stay in control.
He's lived a while, too.
Was that a conscious decision, or is it just kind of the way things happened out? Was there bad things along the way? Or
I don't like any. It's interesting. Frank and I have had many a late night conversation about this because I do not like any feeling of not being in control of all my senses. So not only have I never drank, have I never done any drugs, I don't like taking like Advil. Like I don't like any feeling because I'll feel it. I will really feel it.
And the part that impresses me about that, I remember one night, it was about 2 or 3 months ago, we had some kind of party at my house, and I smoked cigars and I was kind of low. I'm like, hey, let me go down and buy some cigars, and I'll have some drinks, but I'm not a drinker where I'm like, oh, you can go. If you come over to my house and hey, can I have a beer? I'm like,
don't have it.
It has to be one of those things where I know companies coming over.
Right.
We'll stock up. I'll buy. Hey, what is it? What do you like to drink? What do you like to drink? We'll do one of those numbers. So we went down to the local, liquor store, and as we're walking in, he explains to me that his grandfather owned a liquor store down in Texas, and he worked the shop. I'm like, wait a minute. So you grew up in a liquor store and don't drink. You grew up so it's one of those things. Like the guy works at a brothel, doesn't have any issues. Like normal monogamous relationship. But he's always in the worst environments. Yeah. That you would think that you'd be a decrepit. Stand-up comedian, did rock band as a kid. You know what I mean? Like.
Hey, listen,
pretty much every situation that you could be like, most people veer off.
Oh, yes.
This guy couldn't be more exposed to the dark side than anybody I know and chooses not to.
When you're the NBA player in the throes of an overdose, you want me standing by, not somebody who's a little hazy.
In control.
That's right. By the way, happy Lamar Odom anniversary to everybody. That we didn't commemorate it on the show, but it happened just last week.
Well, I was going to say,
we were just talking about on the way over.
Hardcore listeners of Phone Booth Fighting will certainly know well enough about your background, but Frank just threw it out there. Worked in the brothel, still works in the brothel. It's funny because you and I have a shared history. Obviously,
not
Frank
that part.
and I, not that part of it. Frank and I, of course, been working in the same industry for a long time, but you and I are both Dallas natives. You were on the radio in Dallas for a long time, of course, under the name Big Dick Hunter, which
you were Big Dick Hunter.
He was, but you know what? It was a gimmicky name, but it was still good. It was still good content. You weren't just gimmicky there.
Thank you.
But you still do the brothel thing. That's kind of what pays the bills, right?
It is. It turns out that the the world's oldest profession is good, even in lean times. You know,
but still needs people of sane mind to kind of.
That's right. That's right. Well, I often say,
There has to be somebody watching the
I often
coop.
say, between my two careers, if I'm not breaking down fights between professional MMA fighters, I'm refereeing fights between hookers. And it depends day to day which one is right.
Have you guys figured out the
I was
dish
going to say, which is
situation?
more violent?
It depends. It
The
literally
dishes.
depends.
Has that been solved
No,
yet?
no, the dishes. Frank's been following this story. So here's the thing. This will give you an idea of what I deal with during the day. How old's your son, John?
4 years old.
Okay, well this will sound like I'm raising a house of 4-year-olds. Okay, so the deal is the prostitutes at the brothel are supposed to do their own dishes. Okay, it's real simple. You use a dish, you use a glass, go ahead and wash it at the sink, dry it, put it up. Well, it was hard enough getting them to just do the dishes and not leave the sink full of dishes.
Right.
But once I got them actually doing the dishes, they would.
Oh, you had to put this system in place.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We had to have meetings. There was meetings about this, and then they got to where they would take the dishes and put them over in the dry rack, but not dry them. And this was a problem, especially being on that. That's about an hour outside of Vegas. It's the desert. There's flies and stuff like that can get attracting. You want to keep everything clean. So I could not get them to put the dishes, dry the dishes and put them up. I had to suspend dish rack privileges. I had to take the dish rack away, lock it in the closet, and to get them to dry the dishes.
That's
awesome.
absolutely
Wow.
insane.
Yeah.
That's absolutely insane.
Shit you would never, ever think about that happens at a brothel.
Come spend a week with me.
I just
Did
read.
you have to put a sign up on the wall?
Oh, yeah, there was a
"Wa-
memo. There was a memo. Yeah.
If you use it, wash it, dry
Yeah.
it. Put
You
it
know,
away."
like sometimes you make a sandwich or you'll
Yeah.
do something and, you're not quite done with that knife or fork. Like if I know I'm going to have more food, I'll balance it just ever so right on the sink. So, I don't have to clean an extra dish or anything, right?
Yeah.
I'd be afraid to do something like that there because
no,
you don't want to eat after anybody.
No. You do
Is
not
that
wanna
mayo?
eat that.
Is that mayo? I'm not sure.
Oh, no. Oh, God. All right, well, Frank, we'll get to you in just a second, but I got to finish up with Richard here on the brothel. I just read in USA Today, a very fine publication. Are you privy to what's going on out there with Dennis and the Virgin that is
Yes.
on the market for $400,000 right now?
Catherine Stone.
Can you give
Yes.
us a little insight into this whole situation?
Yeah.
Because we're hardcore MMA. We're hardcore MMA, but I'm not going to lie. This one piqued my interest a little bit.
So Catherine Stone, who was featured on This Is Life with Lisa Ling this week, is where she really got the national exposure on CNN and all that. And it's been covered in all the papers and everything. It's probably where you saw it, USA Today. Was a girl who lived up in Washington State. Her family home burned to the ground. And they did not have insurance for the home. So they were having to continue living in the home post-fire, no insurance without rebuilding it. Wow. So she says, "Ma, Pa, I'll head down south to the Bunny Ranch and auction off my virginity to rebuild the family home." So she's in the family home right now, or she's at the Bunny Ranch right now, and the auction bid has reached $400,000, but she's still kind of wanting to make the right connection. She feels like she still hasn't found the right guy.
So it's
now,
not just the highest bidder. You got to have a little
good-looking
apparently
highest bidder.
not, and that's where it's really complicating things. Because I tell you what, the Bunny Ranch would love to have a $400,000 quarter. So especially the fourth quarter. This is when you try to drive the numbers up. So what I was telling Dennis, I was just talking to him about this yesterday, and I said, I know everybody wants to interview Catherine, the Virgin. The person I would want to interview is the guy who can't get laid even for $400,000. Can you imagine offering a prostitute $400,000 to fuck you? And she's like,
I'm good.
I'm going to think about it.
I'm gonna
so
check my
sad.
options. I'm gonna check my options.
If that don't
is
get you to
rough.
get a gym membership, I don't know what will, right? You're like, I think I'm going to start dieting on Monday.
Right now. That's fantastic. Well, I appreciate that. All right, Frank, I got to ask you since I got here. We haven't got to talk to you a long time on a kind of a media level because I've obviously been kind of doing some other things. But you just came back from Russia, and I saw some interviews and things that you did out there, and that said, you're still kind of trying to actively seek your UFC release. Do you still feel like that's the right move for you at this point?
Well, I just think that right now with the shuffling around of what's going on, that having any kind of lines of communication or, basically I'm kind of, probably the last thought on anybody's mind there. And so without anything going on as far as moving forward and having a definitive answer, then yeah, I don't want to wait out 2 years for the issue that I'm dealing with, this metabolite thing.
Right.
That I'd rather just be cut loose and be able to go compete and fight somewhere else, so that I'm not getting any younger.
Yeah, that's rough, man. I mean, it's this. I was telling Angelo last week. I feel bad. You shared a whole lot of the details and kind of how things have happened on an earlier episode of Phone Booth Fighting. But it's funny because I remember when we were in the hotel talking about let's go find some cool kangaroo meat or some alligator meat and let's go film that. Wouldn't that be a hoot? Wouldn't that be great? And very well could be what caused you to be on the sidelines right now.
Who knows? That's the part, too, that trying to get an explanation scientifically is kind of one of those, we don't really know, but we know that it's in your system. It's kind of basically what it comes down to. I kept telling them, well, you guys came and blood tested me and urine tested me 6 weeks before the fight randomly, knocked on my door at 6 in the morning. I didn't have anything in my system then. Why all of a sudden would I introduce something into my system the minute you guys walked out,
right,
and then got off of it immediately, so that I had these low-level minute metabolites? What did I gain? I mean, that makes no sense. Just like if like I tell people, like I remember talking to one of the chemists that was here. It's like, that makes no sense. He's all, no, but it's in your system.
Well, the thing that's really bugging me too, and I mean, we're all still. I feel like we as journalists, fans, fighters, I feel like we're all still learning about this USADA thing, like as we go. It just seems weird to me that was 9 months ago. And we don't have a resolution yet. I mean, it's bizarre that it's taking that long.
Yeah. Right now I think that, Malky was very keen on trying to test all the supplements we had. And at first I thought that's something that they helped out with. But no, they're basically like, look, we're only as far as trying to prove that you're guilty. We're not in the business of trying to prove that you're innocent.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I know when you guys were first talking about it, you said right away that if this thing's going to be on the sideline, if put me on the sideline for 2 years, I'm done. I'm probably done. But it sounds like in listening to you lately, is maybe that train of thought changing a little bit, that even if for whatever reason this goes as bad as it possibly can, and you do get stuck on the sideline for 2 years, that there's still a chance that you'll fight on after that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
If for whatever reason I can't fight, afterwards, then if I get stuck through for 2 years with the UFC, then I'll just, there's ways to get my release afterwards.
Yeah.
And then I'll be clear of and go fight other places.
It's weird, man. If you come back right now, it's a hell of a different company than it was the last time you fought, right? I mean, it's just the changes that are going on. I got to wonder from you, as one of literally the longest-term employees of the entire, not just fighting roster, but literally of the entire company.
Yeah.
What's your take and your feeling, man, as you see this whole company change?
You know what? It's just not the same company that I had grown up with. There's so many people now that are gone that I was friends with, when I'd walk into the offices, say hi to, exchange Christmas cards type of situation. Now it's not that way. So that type of camaraderie is gone. Not that it couldn't develop with the new guys that are all taking place, but it's kind of weird to kind of be, it's kind of like being at your old school and it's all new people. I'd rather just go to a different place.
Right.
If I'm going to see different faces, might as well change everything. I don't want to be reminded, and have that kind of in-between world. It's more or less like, let's make it a clean cut and just start off somewhere else.
I hate to add to the bad news. I got a phone call on the way over here tonight. I was laid off by the UFC, and I don't even work for them. So obviously
They're
I
making
wasn't expecting
sweeping
that.
changes.
Big, broad
Sweeping
changes.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, hopefully things will work out, man. I think a lot of people, definitely want to see you back. And I see you were entertaining the idea of maybe doing some boxing, some K1, something along that. I know Angelo's been bragging about your skills in the squared circle.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a martial artist. That's the first thing that got me wanting to fight the UFC, was to test myself. And, people keep thinking that I never fought to put shiny medals on the wall or belts, because those things, they're short-lived. You know what I mean? You can be excited after you win a fight, but then it's like, all right, that's over with. What's next?
On to the next.
Hell,
we ask you at the press conference, as soon as you win the biggest fight of your career. We ask a champion who reaches the pinnacle of their career, and we're like, cool, hope you're happy. Who's next?
Right. Yeah. And so I think that, but that's a competitive mind, and I want to go out there and test myself and constantly go out there and compete. And being locked up to just one organization, I think, kind of really stunts your ability to grow. As far as winning a UFC belt, I've been there. I've done that. Wanting to go off and seek new challenges, is something that greatly interests me. If in the future, if things with the UFC works out again, they could always come back and try that out. But for right now, while they're going through their changes, I'll go ahead and check something else out.
Angelo, I know he's your guy, and you're always you're always supportive of your guys. But I mean, seriously, what could Frank Mir accomplish as a boxer? I mean, it seems. I mean, we think of him as a submission artist. We think about the grappling expert that he is. What could he accomplish? I mean, could he literally get in there and I mean, could he possibly get in like title fights and things like that?
Yeah, no. If he really wanted to do it and he wanted to command, I'm sure there's enough promoters that know Frank Mir is one of the most. He's a mainstream name, and boxing is about making money. That's what it is. So, for example, like Tyson Fury, he got into this whole problem with the cocaine and drugs. He relinquished all the belts, so all those belts are up for grabs right now. And,
oh wow! I didn't think about that.
Right now I believe we have Joseph Parker, who's training out of Vegas, fighting Andy Ruiz, who's another Vegas guy for the WBO. You got Anthony Joshua fighting possibly Vladimir Klitschko, but really somewhere in between all of that in the heavyweight division, somebody in Europe right now who wants to make a lot of money could actually just say, hey, since they did James Toney versus Randy Couture, why don't we do that in reverse? And I have actually asked. You remember our friend, cruiserweight? Help me out, Frank. Marco Huck.
Yeah.
So I was talking to his PR guy, and he asked me. He said, "Hey, is Frank really serious about boxing?" I said, 100%. I said, but you got to make the money, right? And he said, yeah. Let me look into who here in the UK might want a Frank Mir to come out. And I'm like, my guy's ready to go, man. You just let me know. So, yeah, no. I mean, in terms of skill, John, I wouldn't, me. I train my fighters. And Frank, how safe am I with everybody? I'm almost over safe with all of my fighters,
you think
right?
the boxing world, because obviously the UFC and mixed martial arts, we started to embrace a little bit people from the outside world.
Right.
I mean, CM Punk obviously stepped in off his professional wrestling credentials. James Toney stepped in. That didn't work out, so neither one of those worked out too well.
Yes.
Brock Lesnar, I guess, was probably the one that came in from an outside world and did the most. I mean, but would boxing be okay with welcoming somebody? Because as you said, Frank Mir's name is a name. Is it a name in the boxing world? Would they be open to somebody coming in?
Just today we were at the Mayweather gym with Alessandro Ricci, and everybody knows who Frank Mir is. It's Frank Mir, man.
Of course.
I mean,
I live in this bubble. You know what I'm saying? I live in this MMA bubble where I think like everybody knows who Alessandro Ricci is. You know what I mean? Like we're in this bubble, and sometimes I wonder.
I'll tell you, it's funny because, again, in the boxing world for us, we get really caught up. Like you said, we get caught up in a home bubble. So when I first started working with Frank, I remember even apologizing to him. It was when we were traveling to Brazil, and him and I traveled together, and we stopped off in L.A. And as soon as we got off the plane, man, the entire rugby team came out, and a volleyball team from a college, and a mom came out and was like, my husband loves you. I actually just want to take a picture of you if that's okay. So when we finally had a moment, me and Frank were sitting down at the Starbucks waiting for our next flight, and I said, bro, I got to apologize. I did not realize you're like Oscar de la Hoya famous. So I'm really sorry. And then he said, no. And he actually was really cool about it. He said it's probably why him and I get along so well is I was never really like a yes man to the great Frank Mir. I was like, no, that's wrong.
That's awesome. Well, Richard, I know you're not a yes man. I want to ask you about.
No, I'm a no man. Isn't that right? I'm pretty sure that's why Frank's wife likes me hanging around.
Anytime I travel with Richard, I got the pass.
You're not getting to do anything fun.
She knows that I'm going to have, a very stern, disciplined set of eyes on me.
That's funny. Well, talk about doing the podcast because I am a listener. I've heard the evolution of it. It's been fun to kind of see Frank grow into a hosting role because it's not just an MMA podcast. I mean, you guys definitely do talk about MMA, but it's fun hearing Frank share so much about his life, his affinity for weapons and things of that nature, and hearing him learn to handle the social media tags at the end. It's been fun to see that development. So just talk about working with him, how you guys kind of hooked up and what it's been like kind of seeing him develop.
Yeah, so just to go back to kind of how we met or where we met or whatever, Dan Hardy was always telling me that I would be great friends with Frank Mir. And this goes back years because Dan and I are good friends, and Dan's trained with Frank and everything. And he was always telling me, he's like, man, you two remind me so much of each other, and if you guys ever hang out, you're going to be great friends. So that was kind of stuck in the back of my mind. And then when I started doing some training with Ricky Lundell, and Frank was training with Ricky at the time, and then he kind of put us in touch, and then we were sort of around each other a little bit, and a little bit more, and a little bit more. And then when the podcast started, what we kind of basically figured out was we were talking so much. We were doing this podcast before we started recording it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so and Frank was like, we ought to just be taping this stuff. And so we started recording it, and we started with one episode a week. And then it was Frank's idea to go to 2. And then it was Frank's idea. He was like, sometimes we'll just talk on the phone. And he said, it was like 2 weeks ago, right? He texted me, right? I'm at the brothel. I had just gotten done breaking up a fight between 2 hookers.
Over who was supposed to do the
Yes.
dishes.
Yeah. And he texted me, and he goes, have you got a minute? I'm like, yeah, sure. I thought maybe we had some podcast business to call. So I call him, and he goes, okay, so whose side are we on in Serbia here? What is now?
Syria.
Yeah, Syria. Rather. I'm sorry, Syria. Yeah, he's like, I got the Assad argument, but then we're fighting ISIS. So we end up just talking. Hopefully, Dennis isn't watching because I think that was about 45 minutes on his dime. But we just end up. And so what we'll do sometimes is we'll just record the phone calls,
right.
and then sometimes we make those mini episodes. So we naturally started it just kind of out here on the patio, and honestly, the big challenge now, and it's a great problem to have, is to grow the show. I mean, the listeners have shown up for this thing, and they're buying our T-shirts at phoneboothfightingshop.com. Oh, Angelo's guys, we just released our second design. Check out the retro fight poster look over there. Yeah, I'll get you guys some shirts, by the way. You gotta have some shirts before you leave. But we're basically like a 2-man mom and pop small business.
Right.
And as we're growing this thing, but the trick is we want to keep it exactly what it is, which is the feel of out here on Frank's patio, a very grassroots feel. Now I just, in closing, I will tell you though, I thought in all the radio that I've done, and I've worked in radio for, I don't know, it's probably been going on 12, 13 years now, I'd never had a partner. And because I didn't like a lot of 2-man shows that I saw on radio. It's kind of hard to find somebody with a good work ethic. And especially, and I used to see this all the time on sports stations, where a former athlete or even a current athlete would get a radio show, and they'd think, oh, this is just, I just sit down and say whatever comes to the top of my mind. And sometimes they were the laziest, But this guy is the opposite. This guy drives me because he's so competitive. He's always wanting to know how are the downloads looking, how's this looking, how's that looking, and then he's coming up with these wild ideas. I mean, I knew he was committed when I said, hey, we should go broadcast at Eddie Bravo Invitational in L.A. Frank says, yeah, no problem. I said, but, we're not going to be buying first-class plane tickets or whatever. And he's like, no problem. Let's just drive there, drive back, and we did it all in like a 24-hour turnaround. He's crammed into my Prius, and we're driving through the night at 4 a.m., and I'm like, man, you missed out on being in a band, but this is what it's like, living on the road, driving from gig to gig. So the big surprise for me, I mean, I know I like to talk, and I knew I would enjoy doing a podcast, but it's really been, I would say, just it's like a recorded evolution of a friendship.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can go back. Even you were referencing the episode where Frank talked about the USADA suspension, and that was a really that's a very real moment. Everything you heard that night was real because Frank had called me really just a few hours before that, told me what had happened, and nobody knew about it. It hadn't been in media or whatever yet. And I said, well, here's what I think we ought to do. I said, I think I ought to come over and we'll just put a recorder down and we'll just talk until we can't think of anything more to say about it. And that's what we did that night. And that's why, if you listen to the episode, I didn't have any production value on it.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah, it's clearly an unedited chunk of audio.
I thought it was so cool for you to have that platform,
right?
Because I mean, trying to do it in a couple of interviews with guys like me that are trying to get you for 7 or 8 minutes and try to get what they can out of you and get the little sound bite.
Well, I mean, all that credit goes to Richard. I wasn't going to talk to anybody about it, to be honest with you.
Right.
I was very upset about the situation, and even my conversation with Richard was just me going down the line. He was first on the list of many of me to be like, this is what's going on.
Right.
You know, the ship's going down. I'm in trouble right now. Here's a life raft. I understand. Jump.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, doesn't bother me in the least. I completely get it. You know, and then that's when he actually was like, "What are you talking about?" You know, like, we actually misunderstood each other because
that's a
it was
moment.
actually a
thought
break.
maybe you'd want to dissociate yourself from him.
That's okay. If you
Yeah, I
go
was
back,
trying to break up with him.
Yeah, it was.
It's not you, it's me.
Didn't work out. It really was me.
Brought him closer.
No, that's funny he mentions that because if you listen to that episode, when he called and told me that, of course I was not expecting this, so I'm processing everything that's going on. When he said, so, you know, I wanted to call and, see how you wanted to handle things, I thought he meant how we're going to talk about it on the podcast.
Oh,
and I was
wow.
like, oh, yeah, no problem. And, here's my idea. And it wasn't until I got here that night, and we're halfway through it, and he said something about it. And I was like, wait, what? And he goes, no, I was calling to tell you that, if it's bad for you to be associated with me. And I was like, no, we're friends. Like,
Right.
that's way bigger than, anything else. And plus, I already have a bad reputation. So it's not like there's anything to save,
That's funny. Yeah, somebody. If anybody hasn't heard that, I mean, I think it was cool for you to have that platform to kind of bare your soul about. The last thing I did want to ask you about the USADA thing. I've heard some people say in the media, and I've heard fans too say, you know what, man, the UFC screwed up. They should have not brought in this company. And I've heard people, and it's the same people who said, we need to clean up the sport. We need to clean up the sport. But now they're going, oh, shit, this is way too much, man. We need to step this back, and it's too much. As somebody that's having to go through this and deal with this, and obviously it's affecting your livelihood and your family and all that, what do you think? Is it important that we have a clean sport and we do the best we can, or is there the possibility, but maybe this is just too damn much?
Well, I may be wrong, but I just remembered back when the commissions were responsible for testing everybody, there wasn't a lot of reversals. Mm-hmm. Pretty much if the commission caught you doing something, you really were doing something.
True.
There were no innocent people really getting fried. It was kind of like you really did take something, and you deserve your punishment. It seems like with USADA, it only hasn't been around for a year, and we have case after case between Tim Means, Yo Romero,
Chinese fighters.
The Chinese guy with the meat was tainted within his situation, which they listened to that.
Yeah, two different ones.
Where it's like, wow, we're kind of overboard with this whole metabolite. But you got to realize the motivation is just like, like I look at that as from fighting. When I go to teach someone, or if I want to learn how to fight, and look at moves, I look at how that person thinks. Well, where are they coming from? What's their objective with that technique in the realm that it was developed in? If we're doing a jiu-jitsu technique and now we're going to apply it to MMA, it's like, well, wait a minute, but you're choking a guy that was trying to pull guard. I'm trying to choke a guy who's trying to get back up to his feet. That might not work the same way. You have to really break down the mechanics and the basics of what everything is and the essence of it. And USADA is only in the business of justifying their own paycheck. UFC pays them to be there. If they're not looking for every little tiny infraction that blood level looks a little off, boom, or metabolite here, well, can you explain it? No, we can't either, but it's there. So they're shooting down a lot of people that are innocent.
Yeah.
And I think that's where everybody's realizing that. But how could you be mad at USADA if that's what they are? They're not in the business of making sure it's a clean sport. They're in the business of catching anybody they can catch. They can sit there and go, okay, look, I mean, do you really think USADA wants to go a whole month and nobody gets caught?
No.
It makes,
I hate to say it, but you're right. I mean, if they are getting paid, and it is a lot of money, and they need to justify it. I mean, you'd hate to think that that's the motivation. I mean, I think there's some people that are just all about the cleanliness of the sport or whatever. But at the end of the day, money drives everything we do in this world, and they're a company.
And they're financially driven to catch people at all costs.
Fair point.
And so I think that you have really just a situation where it's a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Where now you're busting fighters. John Jones got pulled off the card 200, right? We don't know yet whether what was in a system was in a system. Was it something?
That's what I hate. Is just we don't know everything right away. It seems like some of the stuff happens in the shadows, and the whole thing I thought was supposed to be about transparency, and I feel like it's almost less transparent now. It's like we get this email of a potential violation, and then that's all we hear. And then,
but I remember with the commissions.
I mean, look at like Machida.
A commission.
Nobody knows what's going on with Machida right now.
No, Machida. What he took is did he take the DHEA or? But then he admitted to it. He didn't realize it was on the list, and then now we don't know what world.
I feel like it needs to be more transparent.
And I didn't feel like that way with the athletic commissions, to be honest with you. I feel like the athletic commission but they've been doing this for a long time. And I think the athletic commissions are, I've had conversations with the athletic commission where I've sat in there and I honestly got the feel that they care about the well-being of the fighters. Yes, are they driven financially? But a lot of those guys have jobs outside the commission.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? They're making
other
money.
than the executive director, they're all working somewhere else.
Right. So, I mean, to them, it's almost kind of like more like this is their, the same as like a dad who, coaches his softball team after school. It's like, yeah, I'm not making money doing this. It's my passion. I'm in it. If I can, mold many young minds type scenario. And I think that a lot of the guys in the athletic commission, especially the ones in Nevada, they seem to be much more caring about the well-being of the fighter, and that's why I think you've seen there wasn't a lot of false positives. There wasn't when guys honestly shouldn't be fighting anymore because of head trauma. Commissions pull boxer cards all the time. It's like, nope, you're not fighting anymore. And why not? That guy still could make money for people, but they chose not to make money off of him for the interest of him. USADA is making money off of people failing tests. And even like I said, without an explanation, where I'm like, well, if I went to court right now in this situation, even if you find my thumbprint on a weapon, you have to still show probable cause.
Right.
You have to show, some kind of a desire or what's the word I'm looking for?
Intent.
Motive. Yeah, motive. What was, and that's one thing I kind of told them. I'm like, why would I take a drug? I get paid the same whether I win or lose. I've kind of 15-year career.
That's right. You were on a flat deal, right?
Yeah, it kind of comes with its own benefits where it's like I'm kind of, I've kind of worked my way to the inner circle. I was the number 10 guy fighting the number 9 guy.
That's an interesting
title
point
implications were not really on the table. It wasn't like, hey, Mir, you pull this off against Mark Hunt and, we're going to go ahead. You won more fight from a title shot. That wasn't even in the conversation. Kind of
an interesting point.
So it's like, so my financial incentive, my, drive as a competitor, it's like, well, I've gone 15 years without taking drugs so far. Why all of a sudden now? That makes no sense.
Interesting. So it's good points, man.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the point I was around. And they're like, well, no, it's in the system.
All that matters.
I'm like, really? I mean, could you imagine going to court and someone going, well, your car was caught speeding? I'm like, well, I wasn't in the car. I was here. No, your car, you're guilty. It's like,
Done.
That doesn't really work that way in our judicial system. We have lawyers and the whole thing. We're going to hash this out and really try to find out who's innocent and guilty.
Well, I appreciate you sharing those details, man. I know it's probably not a lot of fun to talk about, but it's good to be able to do it. I want to ask you about somebody else and kind of get everybody to chime in here, but I definitely want to ask Frank because it's somebody that he got to watch up close and personal. But Uriah Faber announcing this week that he's calling it a career. It's a shame to see that guy go, man. I think he's still one of the most popular fighters in the UFC and all of mixed martial arts. I think he's an incredibly skilled athlete. I think he did a hell of a lot for the sport. But what I've been surprised to see is it seems like there's been a lot of fallout this week of some people saying, yes, Uriah Faber, one of the greatest ever. Thank you for what you've done for the sport, and right off into the sunset. And then other people coming back and saying, come on, guys, Uriah wasn't that good. He never won a UFC title. Look at his record in UFC title fights. And guys, I don't know. I'm kind of shocked at that. To me, I think Uriah is an incredible. I mean, what he did for the sport, what he did for the lighter weight classes in terms of.
Well, he was the king of the WEC.
100%, the poster boy, right? And that's why I say, your ties to the WEC. Yeah. I mean, talk to me about what you think Uriah Faber meant to the sport.
I think he's a complete package. I think he was a phenomenal martial artist, a great fighter. For a while there, the only fights he ever dropped were title fights against the other best guys in the world, and there's no shame in that. I mean, everybody else, he just, he put a clinic on. His marketability, his ability to handle himself outside the octagon. Talk about just a class act. Like the guy was never in the news in any negative way. Right? The guy runs businesses. He helps actually mentor other fighters, that whole team alpha male, he is the heart of it. That's what basically that whole group of guys getting together to begin with. If you eliminate Uriah Faber, he didn't exist, we never would have had a team alpha male.
Yeah,
those group of guys would not have gotten together in Sacramento and started doing what they did for the sport.
And you talked about the marketability too, man. I thought that was one of the guys that got it more than anybody else, man. As far as it was so funny. He would get off the weigh-in scale and he would grab like an amp energy, which he ain't drinking, but he would make sure the label was facing out so everybody could see it. He was, to me, he was one of the first guys that got it. Not only just his personal brand,
great
but then
interviews.
Also.
Pretty much picture perfect as far as if you're a young guy wanting to be a fighter and you want to model your career after somebody, there's very few guys I think that you could not go wrong choosing Uriah Faber. How could you? I mean, what did he not do right? He a UFC title eluded him. All right, well, guess what? Dan Henderson didn't win one either.
Yeah.
You're going to tell me that Dan Henderson isn't a legend?
But he was also a WEC champion at a time when the UFC did not have a title for that weight class. So you could argue that
that's
really
essentially a UFC title.
It is essentially a UFC title. And the other thing too is it's real easy to forget in this day and age with flyweights and strawweight women and all the rest of that what life was like before south of 155.
And I think he's largely to do with that development.
I agree because I can remember just trying to explain to people, you talk to the casual fan, okay, I know UFC, I don't know these other, and when you're talking about WEC, you go, the one that Uriah Faber's in. They're like, oh, okay, I've seen that guy.
Right.
Well, that's
the reason why there's
important.
a 135, 45, 25-pound weight class in the UFC is Uriah Faber. I mean, he really drove the WEC. He was the center of, he was one of the most marketable guys that they had. And, it
in a lot of ways, it's like Ronda Rousey being, ushering in the women to the UFC.
Yeah, no matter what Ronda Rousey does, if Ronda Rousey loses every fight from here on out before she retires, you can't tell me that she isn't the cornerstone of female MMA, that she is not one of the forefathers, of the female aspect of it, that she didn't usher that in. I mean, before Ronda Rousey, we didn't care about women's fighting to the degree that we care about it now. I mean, the girl's on Ellen DeGeneres. I mean, she's doing, come on. I mean,
I don't know if it was
so when people sit there and just want to, find something to, you're right. Everybody who goes out there and pushes for for high expectations and pushes their body and their mind to the limits, and are we going to have stumbles that people can point out and go, well, look, there he sucks there. It's like, yeah, if you want to do that, we're all of us. I mean, no one's going to run a perfect gambit, but that it makes to me that's just a loser mentality.
Honestly, I feel like the only way it's just like people that need something to write. You know what I mean? Like, hey, there's 3 weeks off between UFC events. We need to figure out a hot take. Yeah. And here's my hot take: is that Uriah Faber was never that good.
That's true.
How could you say he was never that good?
Right. His record in UFC title fights was poor.
Well, you're right, but the fact that he had 4 record attempts or title attempts, I mean, good him. I think when it comes, outside of even the win things, when you look at what is an ideal spokesperson for the sport, I think it's you're going to be hard pressed to find somebody that didn't cross that boundary better than he did. I mean, even when he'd show up for events, you look at the crowds, whether it's the guys, the girls, they all had their favorites, but there was always certain ones that moved the needle and made everybody excited if they were just part of it. And Uriah was one of those ones.
He still gets some of the biggest pops, man. When California amazing. Love comes on the speakers, people go
one
crazy.
Of the best
I was
songs
there.
Too. I got to give
I announced his fight there at the WC when we were in Sacramento, and everybody jumped on their feet when they played his music.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like the whole place. I mean, if right at that moment, if you would have said, hey, are you at a UFC or WEC? I couldn't tell the difference.
100%.
Yeah.
I think it's so cool this last fight's going to be in Sacramento. That's going to be a special environment. It's going to be really cool.
Yeah, that's going to be amazing.
Do you think that it's, Frank, is it like a boxing retirement, or is he retired for real?
I don't know. I mean, there's a possibility he could come back out of it.
Title shot.
Well, and I think that though that he's done well for himself financially.
Everything I've ever heard is he's done really good for himself.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think there's ever going to be a need. But as far as the competitive side of him, I don't know. I don't know him well enough to know if that side of him is burnt out. But as far as injuries and how he takes care of himself and he stays fit year round, there's very few people I would think would be better suited at 40 years of age to come out of retirement and be able to, if you told
Keeps
me
himself healthy.
Yeah, if you're like, hey, Uriah at 40 and decide to fight, I'd be like, oh, he's going to do well.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't even bat an eye at it, because the guy doesn't, I've never even seen him like, even when we're out, I don't really see him drinking. I've never seen him drunk. The guy eats. I mean, have you ever seen him without a six-pack?
Oh, you seen him drunk? I haven't seen him. I've never seen him drunk. I've seen him have a drink or two.
Yeah, we've seen him have a couple drinks.
I've seen him entertain a lady or two.
I know this.
No, that little.
This guy.
He always has women around him. It's Uriah.
This is the guy when you see him out, you're like, can I just come along? Can
Right,
I grab some scraps?
So do you remember when he fought Michael McDonald?
Sure.
Okay, and remember Michael McDonald had decided to go public with the fact that he had been celibate for 3 years or something like that. I mean, it's like 3 years he hadn't gotten
by
laid.
choice, right?
Right. Oh, yeah, by choice. And so I'm sitting there with.
He didn't have $400,000 to pay for this.
So I'm sitting there at the table in Sacramento with Gorgeous George from MMA Junkie Radio. And the music hits and everything coming out to the cage for the Michael McDonald and Uriah Faber fight. And I leaned over to George and I said, and now a fight between a guy who hadn't gotten laid in 3 years and a guy who's been laid within the last 3 days.
Probably by 3 different ladies.
No
3 hours maybe. Yeah. That might have been his warm up before he came down to the locker room.
He did well for himself. There's no doubt about it. Well, Cole Crafty, I want to ask you one more thing. Frank mentioned the changing company. We've kind of been trying to keep people abreast of what we hear. You as a former UFC employee, this past week was not a fun week for everybody involved. It sounded like from what we heard initially, everybody that was here was safe now. They made it through the cuts. It was probably going to be next year before they laid anybody else off. But you got some new news this week that sounds like some more are coming. Yeah,
from what I'm hearing is that we had been hearing that December was probably going to be the date. And then now I've went on to hear a specific date, which would be December 2nd. They said either December 2nd or December 5th. December 2nd happens to be, I want to say, probably like a payday Friday where they're probably trying to clean house or whatever. But
right before the holidays.
Right before holidays.
Before TUF. Right
I
before.
mean, I don't know if it comes as a fiscal year sort of thing. I don't know how that shit works with a company that just traded over or whatever. But yeah, we had been hearing that initially it was going to be 40 to 60 people. It was going to be 15%. And I don't know if it comes with the to the rules, because if you let go of a certain amount percentage from any workplace in a certain place, I don't know if it's just Clark County, if that's a Nevada thing, you trigger some law where you're supposed to give notification, and if not, they can sue you. I looked it up when I first left the UFC because there were some other little secret layoffs kind of going off at that time. But from what I'm hearing is that there is the possibility that this is the thing why they spread it out, because they didn't want to just blanket remove 15% or more of their workforce, because it would trigger this thing that they could then in turn, I forget what it is, force them to either have to pay something or whatever. But that's why I heard that they broke it up. And then, we had heard next year, a lot of the guys, we happened to crash their sort of mourning party after the fact. A lot of them got together at a bar.
It was an educated guess.
Educated guess.
We picked the closest bar to the Zuffa.
Closest bar to the Zuffa.
Did you really?
And we were right.
And we were right.
And we were right.
That's some Sherlock Holmes. I like that.
Would it be sensitive, guys?
Deductive reasoning.
Everybody's just got laid off.
Like, wait a minute.
Coffee's coming in with the boom mic.
Wait a minute.
Comment.
A bunch of people get fired. What are we going to do? Like, you're going to fucking hit the bottle. All right. Where's the closest place to drink at? That's not Station Casinos. No.
Oh, yeah. They're not at the station. But so as much as they're trying to say, from what we're hearing, there will be more cuts before the end of the year. Unfortunately, it'll be December, is what we're hearing. So maybe us putting that out in the universe, though they won't do it. I don't think that's going to happen. But
spoiler alert.
But yeah, that's what we're hearing. It's unfortunate, but yeah, that's one of the things that even I've heard people on the inside saying that that's what they think is, because there is this law that if you let go of so many of your workforce, they can actually. It empowers the employees to come back at the company for letting them go without giving mass notification or something. But who knows?
So let me throw out an idea, and I haven't even brought this up on our show yet. We kind of talked about the layoffs on the last episode, but why does this have to happen? Like, let me just throw this out there. If we're the Fertittas, all right, and you got a lot of money. I understand they're coming with the billions, and maybe you want to buy something else at some point or a casino. And maybe because if you're not that into what you're doing with this UFC thing, I totally get it. But if it were me, and this is as an MMA fan, if I could imagine myself not just having millions, but hundreds of millions, which they had before the offer came in, why not just look at this thing and go, you know what, this is my toy, and I'm going to keep it. And we're going to do just what we do with it. And it's going to be a great life.
I'll be
is that
honest,
too idealistic?
I'll be honest. I never really interacted that much with Lorenzo over the years. Lorenzo's he's got a presence about him, man. He's a gangster when he walks into a room. But I didn't interact with him that much. But speaking to some people, kind of that did work with him and that were around him, I got the impression that he was starting to get a little burned out a little bit and was just like, you know what, this is the time to back out with all the stuff that's going on with USADA, with all the headaches and fighters and possible union. Yeah, I think he was just like,
that, and I think
never
honestly,
gonna be worth more than it is, and I can back out.
I think they want to be part owners of the Raiders.
That's been a big thing that we were talking to, and I mean, how can you pass the possibility they upsell this thing? They got so much more value than I think anybody would really say.
I've heard
there's
there's a little bit of talk in the news about that. I mean, there might be a little bit of a problem that they kind of.
Well,
it wasn't worth 4.2.
Structured a little awkwardly.
Yeah.
And see, that's my thought. This is the problem. I had the exact opposite thought. I'm sitting here going, geez, who'd want to own an NFL team when you can own the UFC? This looks like so much better to me.
Yeah.
But that's me. And maybe that's not their dream, I guess. But I don't know.
No, I think Lorenzo's first love is football.
Yeah.
They like MMA, but I mean, football.
We always heard the joke of the story was the fact that he's got a son that's working his way up through Notre Dame
right
that he wanted to give him a place to work in a couple of years, in a couple more years, he could have the Raiders there and have his son just sort of transition in or whatever. But I mean, it's got to be tough if you know that you could upsell this thing.
Are we talking office jobs?
Who knows? If you own the company, make him a quarterback. I don't think he's that big.
Boy,
but you're right.
Let me tell you something.
Maybe a team manager.
I think he's a linebacker.
Where John and I are from,
does he play defense?
Corner.
Where John and I are from, NFL nepotism knows no bounds. If your last name is Jones, not only do you have a job, I remember when Jerry Jones bought the Dallas Desperados, the Arena League football team.
Former season ticket holder.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He put so I had to host the coaches show.
Did you really?
Yeah. But it was actually funny because I would go to a lot of the games and stuff, and every family member had a job. Like the son-in-law got put in charge of running the Desperados, and the daughter, she was in charge of choreographing the cheerleading squad. They all had jobs. And then do you remember – I know nothing about football, but this amused me, so I do remember when this happened. Do you remember the particular season that the Cowboys were playing and Jerry Jones was down on the sideline and the camera caught him demonstrating a blocking technique to one of the linemen?
Yes.
He was down there coaching.
Which is weird because on the one hand, like you want your owner to be involved, but maybe like not
Do you have
that
the hat
involved.
on and everything?
Yeah.
Bizarre.
Wow.
Bizarre. All right, hey, one thing real quick. I'm gonna break some news for you guys. It won't be breaking news when this comes out, but as we sit down to record, this is not anywhere except for on
Facebook.
Uh-huh.
Well, never mind there, folks.
It's breaking
Never mind
news.
there, folks. Okay, well, what the hell? It's already. Well, no, because then I would. Damn it! I can't break the news now.
Why not?
I see the because it's going to be in the newspaper tomorrow.
Morgan, have a little bit more wild turkey.
Maybe more wild turkey.
If we just sit here for another hour and 40 minutes, today will be tomorrow.
That's a good point. All right. In the meantime, while I think about the ramifications of this to my future employment, let's just take a quick break so that we can refresh in here. I'm going to finish off the cigar. We got to refill these glasses and reset right after this.
Okay. Do you guys have commercial breaks?
Yeah.
We don't
well,
have
I'm gonna go to an interview in post.
Oh, okay.
That relates to the breaking news that I'm not talking about right now. So that's how that break will work.
Okay. Got it.
Work for you? So
Sure.
now the breaking news that I'm not talking about. First of all, let me just say thank you to World Series of Fighting CEO Carlos Silva. I appreciate you spending a few minutes with me, Carlos. And let's just get right to it. What can you tell me? You've got a deal in place, it seems, with two-time Olympic gold medal winner Kayla Harrison.
Well, look, I think Kayla sort of speaks for herself. Two-time gold medalist, as you know. I can't lie for me personally, having been president of Universal Sports and being very involved in the Olympic movement, with NBC, I'm personally just very excited to have Kayla join our team. If you haven't ever held a gold medal or seen a gold medal, it's special, and the people that get them are special. We're just excited to have her join the team. She's gonna work not only as a talent and host, but obviously as an athlete. And, we'll just sort of see where things go, but she'll probably start with us on December 31st and join the team there. She's got a little bit of training to do because she's been training so hard in judo. She hasn't been, doing too much camera stuff, but that's something with our partners and with my background that we'll spend some time with Kayla and work on, and we're excited to have her to be part of the World Series of Fighting family, for sure.
You know, after she won her second gold medal, everybody was asking her right away if she planned on coming to mixed martial arts, and Kayla at first was kind of hesitant and said, you know, she wasn't really sure what she wanted to do. So, you know, this is a big step in a new direction for her. What do you think sold her on it? What was the pitch that you were able to give her, and how did you convert her, so to speak, to come over to World Series of Fighting?
You know, it's a great question, John. I think some of it is, the relationships that she's had, the folks that she trains with. I think the approach that maybe World Series of Fighting is taking towards MMA around really taking care of our fighters, but really treating our fighters as athletes and also thinking about them as a little bit more like, sporting athletes in the Olympic kind of fashion. And again, with my background, I think she was comfortable. I spent a lot of time with her. We took my owners, and a lot of us, all went to dinner, with her, and just I think it made a big difference that she sort of understood how we were a little bit more of a boutique and a little bit more of a family, and I think that made her want to come on board, and I think sort of dip her toe on the talent side as much as the athlete that she is too, that she'd be able to sort of play both sides of that. And as you know, we've done a little bit of that with David Branch as well. And so, we sort of talked to her a little bit about how David's also been in the broadcast booth and been on some of our NBC highlight shows, but, he's also a 2-belt champion. And I think she found that intriguing.
So the interesting part from your point of view, I think, is what you do in terms of expectations. I mean, maybe you don't know until she trains a little bit and she develops a little bit. But, a 2-time gold medal winner judoka, I think people are going to be very, very excited about that. But, this will be a professional debut when she finally steps into the cage. So do you work to kind of temper that enthusiasm a little bit or kind of, keep the expectations in check?
I don't think you ever temper the enthusiasm around a 2-time gold medalist in judo. So no, I don't. I think everyone will be enthusiastic as we are, John. I mean, look, she's the best of the best in a sport that's a critical component of MMA, and I think, look, I don't know how you do it. I can't say that I did it. I wish I had, but she didn't do it once, but she took 4 years in between and then did it again. So I just think it's there's not too many athletes that have done that, period. And she can enter into mixed martial arts with just a huge confidence around such a core foundational component of MMA. So no, I'm not going to try and temper any enthusiasm. People can get as enthusiastic as they want because I know I am.
So then I guess the question then is, is this a sign of maybe things to come? I mean, do you have your eyes set on other athletes, other world-class athletes like this, or was this just kind of a one-off that was just too special, I guess, to let go?
I think Ray does a great job of keeping his eye on the ball. The other thing about Ray, as you know, is he's in the gym every day. He's training with all these awesome athletes. He's over at Extreme Couture on a daily basis in Vegas. When he's out and about in New York, he's training with Henzo and others. And I think he's always, looking. And I think athletes kind of gravitate to Ray because he's got such a great sort of coaching kind of an attitude, having been a world champion. So I think that helps with Kayla, and I think it helps with all of our fighters. So I think she's super unique, and we went, the extra distance to spend time with her and help her understand what the World Series of Fighting family's about, and got a little lucky that she agreed to join us.
And now we've got a chance to speak to the new addition herself, Kayla Harrison. First of all, Kayla, let me say thank you and congratulations on the new deal.
Thank you.
Well, let's get right into it. I mean, when you finished up with your Olympic career, you admitted you were kind of hesitant. You weren't sure if the MMA was going to be the right path for you. So, I guess what clicked? What changed? What made you decide this is definitely the right move for you?
Yeah, well, I've been boxing and doing jiu-jitsu and all of that, and the biggest thing for me really is I miss competing. I miss fighting on the highest stages of the world, and the World Series of Fighting really gave me a great opportunity to not only fight if I were to fight, but to be an ambassador for their company. They work with NBC, which is the Olympic channel for the United States, so it seems like a really good fit. I feel like they have a really good reputation as a fighting company, and I think we have a lot of opportunity to be able to grow together.
Well, what are you feeling about your broadcast debut? Obviously, it's not competition right away, but certainly something new for you that you're going to have to learn and master, and I'm sure be dedicated to. So, what's your feeling there? Are you nervous about it? You excited? How you feel?
I think it's going to be fun. You know, I'm really excited for this new challenge, this new opportunity. I've done commentating before for the International Judo Federation, and I've given my input many times. But this is, again, MMA is different from judo, so I'm excited to grow, and I'm going to be taking some lessons and learning, and I've really dived headfirst into this whole experience, and that's one of the reasons I started boxing right away. It's one of the reasons I started jiu-jitsu right away. So that not only am I growing as a person and a fighter if I choose to fight, but I'm also, you know, I'll be able to see things that are happening in the cage and understand what's happening. I think that that's something. You know, there are female commentators, not a lot in MMA, but I think that that's something that I bring to the table that makes it unique for me to be able to commentate. Is I have the pedigree, I know what's going on, and I'm learning every day. You know, I'm becoming a fighter, so I'm going to be able to give a fighter's point of view.
You know, it's interesting because you said a couple times, if I fight. And, you know, I know this is an all-encompassing deal. It's not just a fight deal. It's broadcasting as well. But, I mean, is fighting a certainty for you, or is it still something you're considering and there's a possibility that maybe it doesn't happen?
Yeah, you know, to be honest with you, there's still, of course, uncertainty. I'm not, it's, you know, we've signed the contract, and I'm really excited about it, and I'm looking forward to it, but we haven't set any dates or anything like that. And I told them right off the bat, if I do fight, if that's something that I want to do, I'm going to need a good amount of time to prepare myself and to get ready and feel 100% comfortable with stepping into a cage and going all out with another person.
No, that definitely makes sense. Obviously, I know that you want to get in there and do a great job when you do make that debut. So, I mean, is there a timeline of how you make this decision, or is this just something that you figure out as you go along?
No, I think, you know, I'm really blessed that I have such a good team around me, and I have a lot of people who are very educated in this business. They know what they're doing, and I trust them, and I trust their judgment, but I know when I'll be ready. And I wouldn't, you know, I don't foresee myself stepping into a cage to fight professionally until I'm 1,000% ready. And I wouldn't see that happening within, you know, before a year. I think it's going to take some time because it is such a new experience, and it is something totally different from what I've ever done. And like you said, there's going to be a lot of pressure. People, you know, eyes are going to be on me. People are going to be watching, and I want to give the best show possible, and I want to be I want to be the best fighter I can be. So when that time is there, then that's when I'll be in the cage.
No doubt. Where are you training, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm doing jiu-jitsu. You know, Travis Stevens, my teammate, the Olympic silver medalist, is also a black belt under Henzo Gracie and John Donaher. So I'm training with him for jiu-jitsu right now in Boston. But when I can get up to Henzo's, I go up to Henzo's to train. I'm taking boxing from Delay, and he's an old friend of my coach, Big Jim, who, you know, his style is, he's a very unique coach. He's a little bit rough around the edges. And what I love about John is he's an old school boxer. He's got old school style, and he coaches just like Big Jim. So I feel like I've gone from having one old grumpy man to another.
Sure enough. All right. Well, listen, I know people are going to be excited about this news. I know that they're going to be excited about your transition to mixed martial arts. I know a lot of people have been wondering if you were going to do it, and I think they'll be excited about it. But, you know, what's the one thing you want people to know? What's the one message that you want people to take away from this?
What's the one thing I want people to take away? I think that I want people to know that Kayla Harrison is, you know, I'm my own person. I think that's a big thing. Everyone a lot of times likes to compare me to Ronda. I'm my own person. I make my own decisions, and I'll do it in my own time. But the biggest thing that they can expect is, you know, I just want everyone to be excited and expect big things from me, because this is only the beginning. I'm excited for this new chapter. I'm excited to commentate. I'm excited to be a brand ambassador and help the World Series of Fighting grow their organization, as well as help me grow myself as a fighter, as a brand myself, and also my foundation. So it's all coming together, and I'm really excited to be working with such a positive and professional team.
back to the MMA Roadshow. If you're listening live, you didn't hear anything. If you listen to the Roadshow and podcast, you heard some breaking news there. Hope you enjoyed that. So, listen, I think what's right now is the kind folks of Phone Booth Fighting, our good friends Richard Hunter and Frank Mir, have let us hijack their airways. It would only be fair now to reciprocate. So, I don't know if we have the ability to queue up the Kung Fu Fighting.
I'll get that from Richard.
I'm used to it.
Yeah, that's our production quality we got, dude. We're working on a little bit different budget, but if you can't tell from Cold Coffee's the soundboard, that's the intro music for Phone Booth Fighting. Richard Hunter, take it away.
Yeah, well, guys, you mentioned being fans of Phone Booth Fighting. I mean, we're also fans of the MMA Roadshow, and I was going to take this swapcast opportunity to ask you guys about, first of all, what T-shirt sizes you like.
Do I have to mention that right now?
Well, no, I guess you don't. But
the ones with the multiple X's in the front.
Medium.
Yeah,
Is that what
I'll
you
take
like?
a schmedium.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we got Phone Booth Fighting shirts for you guys, so I'm gonna hook you up with those. But I was gonna ask you if you guys have thought about. Normally, I would recommend any podcast do a T-shirt to help subsidize the podcast. But for you guys, here's a free idea.
All right.
I would like to see you guys market the John Morgan blue polo shirt with the MMA Roadshow logo on the breast pocket. You too
slick.
can wear big blue.
That'd be
Morgan.
slick, bro.
I kind of like that. I kind of like
That
where you're
would be
coming from
slick.
there, man.
I mean, there's two. When you think about, the recognizable color of a golf shirt, there's two names that come to mind: Tiger Woods in the red on Sunday, and John Morgan in the blue
That's
on
true.
fight
I
night.
like where you're
That's
going
true,
with that.
actually.
I like where you're going with that.
I'd like to sell.
Did you actually mean to do that, John? Is that like a bat uniform?
Yeah,
for
no,
you?
for anybody that doesn't know, the reason that I do always wear a blue shirt on fight night is actually the very first time I wore a blue shirt, I just put on a damn blue shirt that I had in my closet. And my wife sent me a picture of my son at home, probably about 2 at the time, touching the TV. I guess she had kind of like paused it to show where Daddy was, and he was touching the TV where I was wearing my blue shirt. And instantly, I know Frank's a big family man. Instantly, I'm like, oh shit, I'm wearing that to every fight. I want my kid to know that that you can find me. Even when I'm out of town, even though I'm gone all the damn time, Mom, you can turn on the TV for you. You can pick out the blue shirt, which is obviously very easy to pick out. I never knew anybody else would notice. I thought it'd be like something secret between me and my, like one of those little hand signs that the basketball players do. And then obviously it became a little bit more well-known, but I kind of like where you're going with that, man.
Well, obviously you and your father have a better relationship than I did with mine, because my dad wore golf shirts his whole life, and that's why I don't put one on. So that's a good sign for you and your son. But it's so recognizable, and I wear all black. And my fans complain about that, John, on fight night, because I blend into the background. I'm very hard to pick out.
Hey, you're easy to pick out in the scrum videos, though. I love the scrum videos where inevitably on MMA Junkie we get comments like, "Who's that dude?"
Yeah.
And you don't even have to look at the shot. When they just say, "Who's that dude?" you know that Richard was like standing on the side over here, just made it into the side of the frame. And we know.
Yeah, it's like,
you got to look. I mean, you've got to look and you rock it, and that's what's up.
Well, I knew. Here's the secret to that. What I believe in is lock into a look early and stick with it, because it makes it very hard to date photographs. Like, you look at a photo of Ron Wood, who's never looked good in his life.
Right.
Don't think that I'm confusing this with looking good. But you look at a photo of Ron Wood or Keith Richards and you go, was that taken in 1975 or was that 2 weeks ago?
Right.
I can't really tell. So that's kind of the idea behind that. But yeah, I knew that I had come into my own when there was a thread dedicated to me on the MMA Underground.
Nice.
And it happened just fairly recently. And you know who kicked it off was that Angela Hill. You know, the Invicta fighter?
Oh, I love her.
She tweeted. Here's what she tweeted, okay? She tweeted, it was one of the Conor McGregor press conferences, and I'm up with the mic, and I'm asking the question, right? She screenshotted me asking the question and tweeted, somehow this guy got a press credential.
Oh.
And I tweeted her back, well, somehow this guy's been getting a press credential for like the last 10 years. But then I also thought to myself, Am I hearing this from a person that I swear I saw at a weigh-in with a 5-foot mohawk? I know I was right. Isn't that the same person? But we've since become friends on Twitter.
She's
She now
brilliant
follows
on
me.
social media.
She's
Yeah.
a lot of fun to follow on social
Yeah.
media.
Yeah, so that's something I think you guys might ought to think about doing
I
there
thought
with
you'd
the
say
shirt.
like beer cozy.
Yeah,
That's what I was going
I
for.
figured
That's a good one.
you were gonna say
And I
beer
tell you what,
cozies.
that's a cheap one.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you know what, that's good because we do at phoneboothfightingshop.com, we do a combo pack where you get the T-shirt and the retro style fight poster signed. And the posters are cheaper to make than the T-shirts, so that's a key. Is you kind of want your lower dollar item like the koozie that you can throw in. With the
the
shirts.
polo.
That's
So
smart.
this has a
I like
this
it.
has
Guys
a
got
poster.
ideas.
Huh?
Richard, this has a poster.
Yo, now you want the poster too.
I want the
yeah.
poster, dude.
Angelo collects them all, man. Yeah.
This
Yeah.
guy's got ideas.
Yeah,
man.
I'll get you one. No, that blue shirt though. I mean, I remember one fight. I think I texted you this or tweeted it to you, but and I don't know if it was overseas or whatever. But there's some Yahoo 2 rows behind you wearing a blue shirt just like yours, and I was like, "What is that?" Like it threw me off.
Obvious gimmick infringement there, right? Obvious gimmick infringement.
Yeah, I didn't like to see that at all. And then there was the one recently. I can't remember what fight card it was that you did where it looked like you were the only guy on media row for like the first 4 fights.
Yeah, that happens every now and then on some of these smaller fight
Yeah.
nights, and there's literally nobody around me, and I just stay. I know there's some producer in a truck.
Yeah.
It's like, get off that camera angle because my fucking blue shirt
brightest
just
blue
glowing
shirt.
in the background. He's like, Jesus Christ, this guy.
I asked John how tempting it was to, when the guy came to sit down next to him, even though it was just nothing but a row of empty chairs, just go, I'm sorry. This is taken." Yeah, I'll need that chair. Okay, so I have a question for the table. And maybe more particularly to the married guys, but has my girlfriend suggested an outing a couple of weekends ago that just turned out to be miserable. And it sounded like a good idea. It was making me think of that because Frank's going to Disneyland this weekend, and my girlfriend and I went to Disney. Neither one of us had been to Disneyland. We went for the first time.
That was
a
for
couple
your
weeks ago.
birthday, right,
For my
Richard?
birthday.
Yeah.
Great
Now
experience, right?
Yeah, now she's in love with the place and all this, and she's all just, I can't believe we wish we were going this weekend and all that. But it reminded, not all those situations are created equal, right? So a couple Saturdays ago, she says, you know what would be fun? Because I live near here, so Frank knows.
Oh, in the fancy part of town.
Oh yeah, I'm telling you. Yeah, I got
We gotta start
Richard
selling
Hunter,
some
man.
t-shirts.
Yeah. It's good to be the PR man for the brothel.
I got
dude.
an HOA and everything. But in this general area of town where we live here, my girlfriend had discovered that there was an orchard. Now, did you know there's an orchard near here?
I've been hearing about this place, I think.
Yeah, it's owned by some family or something, right?
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And she said she had this idea that we get up early on a Saturday morning and we go to the orchard where you can pick your own fruit.
Yeah.
So, okay. So
Why would you want to do that?
Well, that's question number one.
We're
but
about
I-
to find out,
I
Frank.
didn't
We're about to
voice
find
it at the
out.
time, and I'm always down.
Did you have to buy the fruit too?
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
You need to
So
deduct
you
the
worked
labor.
for it? So this guy has an orchard where they sell fruit.
Probably charges
You
a
come
premium.
and get it.
Charges a premium for
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And then, wow, no labor. No, they're going to come get it themselves. That's
Yeah.
like something that pisses me off sometimes at the supermarket.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I don't like going to Fresh and Easy.
Oh, right.
Because I don't like going to the self-checkout. Unless I have like 1 or 2 items,
Right.
then it's like kind of convenient if it's open. But for the most part, when I go up, I'm like, I don't want to do this shit. Like as I'm running the screen, I'm like,
Oh, no. Now, don't tell me you're the guy who goes to Fabulous Freddy's and the 90-pound chick comes over and you're like, pump my gas.
the 90-pound chick needs $5 like anybody else.
Well, she thought we should go to this orchard. So we get up Saturday morning and we go out there, and there's a ton of people out there. Like, I mean, it's parking down the street, and it's in a fairly residential area. But, kind of in this area, occasionally you'll hit where there's like somebody's got a big horse ranch or something like that. So it's kind of laid out like that. So we go in, and you grab a wheelbarrow, and you start going down, and I mean, like, you walk down a row of apple trees so far that you lose sight of the parking lot and the front and the. I mean, I don't know how far we walked doing this thing, but it's over bumpy terrain, and I'm pushing the wheelbarrow, and
This is awesome.
so the.
This is awesome.
So-
welcome to married life, dude.
Yeah. You're probably common law now. That probably just sealed it right
That
there.
is very much. You had a husband day.
So I'm pushing the wheelbarrow, and I'm telling her, I'm like, there aren't any apples on these trees. And she's like, I know. She's like, it's like they've been picked over, you know? So we're going and we're looking at apple trees with no apples on them. And about that time, we came upon a tree that had like a couple of kind of dinky looking apples on them, and we were like, hey, there they are.
Amazing.
There's a couple apples. Now we got to buy these now, because who knows if we're going to see more apples, right? And I even said to her, I was like, how weird would it be if a talking snake popped out right now? Yeah. So we take the apples, and then somewhere along the line she goes, well, here's a squash. And she found like one squash, just sort of in this huge squash
So did you
patch
put
where all the
these
stuff had been
4
picked
items
over.
inside your
In the
big-ass
wheelbarrow, okay? All right, so now we're all the way back on the North 40. I mean, we've gone all the way down to, the outskirts of civilization with our wheelbarrow. So I said, here's what we need to do. We need to park the wheelbarrow and then walk down these rows, because, one, it sucked pushing the wheelbarrow all the way down the rows, kind of like you do maybe at the grocery store where you leave a cart at the end of an aisle, right?
Especially when it's busy.
Yeah, so we did that, and we start walking down looking at their pumpkins or whatever they had. We start walking back to our wheelbarrow, and there's some lady putting her Asian kids in our wheelbarrow. She'd taken the fruit out of it and just set it down, and Jennifer goes up to them, and she's, pointing to the wheelbarrow, and there's a language barrier, and all of a sudden she's creating an international incident. And I was like, look, I don't, and so the lady's having to pull the kids out of the wheelbarrow, and we're having to retrieve because I guess Jennifer felt like at that point we had competed for that fruit. Right. So we needed it. It was ours, right? That was about the time the dust storm kicked up. Now, when I say dust storm, anybody read The Grapes of Wrath? I mean, this was Tom Joad and the Dust Bowl, man. I mean, it came up a dust storm, something fierce, and we are so far away from the car. I mean, it might have been a mile that we walked back to the car.
Wow.
Now I'm pushing this wheelbarrow that's got the pumpkins and the one squash.
Might have not been an argument you wanted to win. You know what I mean? Like the Asian lady picks, great, just
Guess we're out.
your wheelbarrow now.
We get up to the thing, we pay for the stuff, they put it on a scale or whatever, and like all the people that worked there had like these scarves wrapped around their faces, where they're trying to keep the dust out of their faces and everything, and we got back in the car and we're just all dirty, and my Converse were toast, and it's like I don't know about doing that anymore. And to her credit, she's like, yeah, I don't know.
As Frank
about
said,
that either.
you're basically married now. That's
Has
married
that?
life.
Well, here was my question:
Yeah.
Has anybody else suffered that kind of something that was supposed to start out to be an outing?
Well, normally it's once children are involved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you pass it off as, well, it'll be a great experience for the kid.
Yeah.
And my wife suckers me into that all the time. It'll be great for Eli, and I'm like, how am I supposed to argue with that? I mean, we sure didn't do this stuff when we did before we had a kid, but now that we do, and I mean, I always try to take a little joy in him having a good time, but that's basically married life.
Well, I love the fact. Was it Gilcrease Orchard or whatever?
Yeah, that's what it was called.
Because the girlfriend had brought that up like last week, literally like, hey, let's go to that
Oh,
place.
yours?
Oh.
Yeah. She's
Oh,
listening
no.
to this
Cold
right now.
coffee
She's
yeah.
listening to us, so
listeners.
she knows we're not going to that place anymore. It's not happening.
But don't they have like wildlife there or something? I think I've been there too. I think they have like some wildlife or something there.
I don't
That's
know.
That's how
I heard
bad
about
life
pumpkins
is.
and the squash and like the stuff. Yeah, it's supposed to be like we're out here in the desert, but you can pick your own food.
That wildlife
Actually
may have
kinda-
just been kids that couldn't find their way back to the car and turned feral.
They become
Actually, I
The
think
commandeering
Jenny might get
wheelbarrows.
screwed more over than I do in our relationship. With that in mind, as far as doing things that end up being a lot more work for her,
Uh-huh.
especially when we go up camping. Because, we'll go camping for a week, sometimes 2 weeks at a time over the summer. And I think it's great. I'm running around, chopping wood, shooting arrows, having rifles with the kids off the river, But then we get back, and, Jenny's personality, she starts to get a little bit more grumpier. And it took me a while to realize that while we're all having a great time, it's camping. All the having to wash clothes, give kids baths, cook out, where you have to move your whole stove outside. Like there's a lot of work that comes that to me, I'm not doing that aspect of the, I'm like, oh no, kids, come on, let's learn how to make a fire, I'm doing those
You
things.
get to do the fun stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking over like, honey, aren't you having a good time? And she's over there washing dishes by hand, for the third time the day, and I'm like, what? This is a blast, right?
Frank's camping trips are fun. You never know what UFC champion will show up at the campsite. Mighty Mouse showed up.
Demetrius
right?
Johnson was on your last one, right?
Yeah.
Uncle Eddie's.
Yeah, he's a Washington native, and so talked to him and told him we were going to be up there in the Morton area and stuff. We're Uncle Eddie's property, and
That's cool. That's a guy, man, that I think is finally people are starting to finally see the real Demetrius Johnson. I mean, obviously you've been camping with him, you've seen the real, and I feel like forever. In his interviews and stuff, he was just so conservative and kind of quiet. I think he even told me one time, he remembers the first time I interviewed him, and he's like, who's this asshole asking me questions? He just didn't embrace the media side. And
Some guys still ask that question.
Absolutely, totally. But I think people are really starting to
Johnson
see.
still says that.
So true. I think people are starting to see the real Demetrius Johnson, man. That guy's got a ton of personality, man. Such a good dude at heart, and a shame that people don't necessarily appreciate him, that he's not as popular maybe as he should be. Because I think to me, in our pound-for-pound rankings, he's our number one pound-for-pound right now at MMA Junkie.
For USA Today?
Yeah, for MMA Junkie and USA Today. And I think – and we have arguments within our staff. There's still some people on our staff that argue this, John Jones. But I think it's Mighty Mouse, man. I think people are starting to see who he is, too, which I think is cool.
Yeah, well, I think it is too, because you look at what they're having to do for him right now. Not only has he cleaned out a division, they haven't have a game show to see if they can find somebody.
I'll tell you what, though, that game show is pretty cool because the guy who first lost, Brandon Moreno,
Yeah.
Dude, he tapped out Smolka, who's number 9.
No,
that's impressive.
No, it's a
great. That to me made it legit.
It's
like,
a great
season.
I'm enjoying the season. I'm just saying that's when have we ever seen that before? Where they're like, because really what you're doing is you're going outside the organization to find somebody to fight your champion.
Crazy.
Yeah.
You've literally beaten everybody as a reason to say they have a chance at a title. We need to go find somebody
Some
else.
of them more than once. Yeah, absolutely. Well, he's done a lot of stuff with us on the podcast, and I think his personality is so great. And I really, we've kind of watched him. He's got this whole Twitch thing going. Have you followed that with his video gaming?
I don't
thing?
watch that.
No,
I've seen
what
what
is
he's
it?
doing.
What is it, Richard?
Streaming video games.
He's a huge gamer. Frank is too, but he's a big
Figure out a
gamer.
way to make money doing it, though.
Yeah, he's created a online game. Not created the platform, but he's has his own channel on there, and his fans go on there and play video games with him and watch him play games, and he talks to him while he's playing. He's essentially doing a podcast, but it's a audio feed while he's
what games
can
he play? Like, can I whoop on him on like UFC? Or can we
no,
play Madden
I don't know what
together,
these
or?
games are. I mean,
Because
Yeah.
Demetrius, I will play you some Madden.
Yeah,
you and me can get down.
I asked about.
He's a gamer. I hear
is he really?
Is he
really
good? I hear he's really good. Yeah, because he had the whole Xbox sponsorship and all that stuff.
That's true.
Like he's legit. Like he games. So I don't know. I'd put my money on him over you. I think.
Oh, thanks.
Just stereotyping.
I've had a hard time wanting to make that transition over to that, though, just because when I go play video games, it's kind of my escape. And even if I play online and I'm playing with other people, they don't know who I am. I'm just, gamer tag.
Anonymous?
Yeah, they could know who my name is, you know what I mean? And I don't want to say it because then that would kind of ruin
Yeah,
me.
You're not like
kind of ruins the
Mir
anonymous.
_UFC champ.
You're not greatest heavyweight ever.
I play PlayStation 4. I have my games I play on there, and you know what I mean. And I go on campaigns with other guys. And
Once your arm broke, whatever.
Yeah, greatest submission ever.
Now, so I'll talk to people and we'll go back and forth, and they have no clue who I am.
I've literally never played a video game online because I'm just afraid to get shit talked by a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
But you have such a unique voice. I would think that somebody would just pick that out.
Oh, you know what?
Or recognize it.
Hasn't happened yet.
Interesting. Well, I guess it's probably awkward. Somebody's probably not playing their game thinking like, I'm playing with Frank Mir. They're like,
They're like, who's this dude that sounds like Frank Mir? Like the time I walked into an airport on my way to Abu Dhabi, and this dude walked into the hotel or the airport lounge in Houston. I'm like, who is this Vanilla Ice looking motherfucker right here? Oh, it's Vanilla Ice. For a second, I'm like, look at this wannabe, dude. And it was actually him.
Where's John has the busiest travel schedule of all of the,
He really does.
the MMA media core, right?
He really
Where
does.
you my girlfriend said to me one time, we hadn't been dating very long, and she was, she didn't know anything about MMA or anything because she's learning all this stuff, and I was kind of explaining who the people are, and she watched the press conference and, all this, and so she figured out pretty early on who you were, and it wasn't about another couple of months later we're watching some fight, and it's in, I don't know, some Chad or some strange country, and
what a weird random country for you to be like your go-to.
Yeah, and there's John front and center, and I remember her looking at me, and she just goes, I couldn't be married to John Morgan.
My wife says the same thing. It's funny. Yeah, no, it's it's funny, man. It's it is. I always say it's true, man. When I was single, it was the greatest job in the world. Fly around the world, watch fights, a sport that I definitely love. Once I got married, a little tougher, but hey, a little time away is not that bad either. As I'll have a few frosty beverages while I'm on the road, enjoy being where I am.
There is enjoyment to that. I mean, my wife, because I travel almost every weekend, I'm gone, and there's always that I miss you. But I noticed that our relationship is actually a little bit better.
It is true when you have a little time, when you're not like together all the
damn
damn time.
It's like anything else. I mean, I love pizza, but I mean, if you put pizza every day on the counter,
you get tired of it.
You get tired of it, But if it's one of those things where you don't have it, and I'm not talking like being tired of your wife,
right?
But even,
but I'm talking about her being tired of me.
No,
I'm the pizza.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. My wife, I have it pretty easy. My wife kind of, waits on me hand and foot.
I know it's for you. It's the kids.
But
though.
I
That's
noticed,
the hard
yeah,
part.
that sucks. But when I come back, I notice my wife treats me so much better. You know what I mean? Like, not that she doesn't treat me great anyways, but there is that where you come home and it's like, hi, honey. Oh, hey, I'm going to play video games for a little bit. Is that okay? Yeah, sure, go ahead. I'm all,
wow.
Fuck, if I'd been home for a month and I'm like, I'm going to play video games. Have you done this yet? Or the garage? Or the garage?
No, there's definitely part of that. I do miss as the kid's getting older. Now, he's 4, so he's getting to the point now where it's like, Daddy, do you have to go? And it's like, well, I mean, if you like the house and you like the bills paid for, then yeah, I have to go.
They don't understand that.
Definitely don't understand that. But so that part's hard. But I still love it, man. There's still no place I'd rather be than on fight night, being there cage side and being able to witness these incredible athletes. And honestly, I love, being able to interview them and be at the press conference, be that guy. Because I feel like ultimately at the end of the day, my job is to just ask the questions that I think the fans want to know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what is it they want to hear that, like, if they were in my seat, if they could be in that press conference and getting to see Frank Mir up on the dais in front, like, what would the fans want to know? And I feel like, there's certain things we have to ask about and stories and, things that we need to do as media to kind of monitor the sport. But overall, I feel like it's our job to just kind of, ask what the fans want to know.
Is there ever time you feel limited on what questions you're allowed to ask? Like, because obviously when we cover the UFC, it's the biggest show.
Yeah.
Are there ever times where, you're a little censored, where you're like,
So, no, it's a great question. You know what I honestly feel like is I feel like it's always the right place, right time kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to ask Dana how he feels about the USADA program, or if you want to ask, so whatever, those kind of things that might be a little controversial, maybe the pre-fight press conference where they're streaming live and trying to hype up, UFC 205 isn't the best place to ask that, but know that you can get them on the phone, or maybe there'll be a scrum, a more one-on-one type conversation. So, yeah, absolutely.
So you're just more articulate or more just selective on your timing.
100. And also the other thing, too, is throw a little softball.
That's what I was going to say.
Throw a little softball,
That's, yes.
Dana, tell us about this amazing event that you're putting on. This is the greatest ever.
Can you just speak for a minute about how awesome the UFC is?
Just throw that and, get everybody working in the right direction, and then hit them with the controversial question.
No, there's other journalists that actually rub people wrong. There's journalists that have walked out of arenas.
Yes.
Do you think that maybe that's what they suffer more from, not being as selective on when? Or maybe even trying to get a niche off of, I'm going to be the guy that's going to ask the question that you're going to go, holy shit, did you really just ask that right now?
I think so. I think, I've always looked at this as a marathon, not a sprint, man. I want to be covering the sport for my whole life. So let's do it the right way.
As long as I've been in the sport, I don't know anybody that has anything bad to say about you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, honestly,
That's true.
Vitor Belfort talked to me one time. But other than that,
we worked it out.
Yeah.
We worked it out.
Oh, wait, George St. Pierre might say something now because of last week, right?
George wasn't really thrilled with me running into him at Aria the other day. But no, yeah, I do. I think that's the right way. Honestly, like, and here's the other thing that I've always said.
That's hard as a journalist to not piss people off.
Well, and here's the other thing.
Because you got to ask questions that people don't want to really answer.
But make sure that you just ask them in a polite fashion, the same way you would if it was out on somebody's patio having a cocktail. I always say, don't write, don't tweet, don't say anything that you wouldn't be willing to say to that person's face. Like, if you're going to say, like, man, I thought Frank Mir didn't look good in that defeat. I thought maybe he didn't have a good plan B. I thought maybe he gassed in round 3. I think those are all fair to say, like if it's an honest evaluation. Yeah. But if you're like, dude, he sucks, he's terrible, like you would never say that to somebody's face. You know what I mean? Just I think that's to me. I think that's the way everybody should live. Don't be afraid to ask the hard questions, but just be sure that you're asking them in a polite manner, like you would anybody else in the world.
Be human about it.
Be human about it.
I'll add to that, because I think another thing, and this is something I always try to do, is it's always best if it's an uncomfortable subject if you can make them think it was their idea to talk about it. And a lot of times it's in the phrasing of the question. And a lot of times it's not that they don't want to talk about it, it's that they don't like the way they've been asked about it. So if you phrase your question the right way, a lot of times actually those folks will, if they are made to feel like, oh, this is my opportunity to say how I really feel about this, then they will.
Well, I guess too,
they'll do it.
Speaking as a fighter, I can kind of tell when I'm asked a question what side you're on.
Yeah.
I feel like if you ask me the question and through your, the words that you're using and your mannerisms, your physical posturing, your tone of voice.
Like you're feeling some judging already.
Right. If I feel like you're already the asshole that doesn't like me, then as you're answering the question, I'm already evaluating every word you're saying. And before even you started to speak, as you're speaking, I'm already like, fuck this guy. You know what I mean? Like, okay, But if I'm already like, hey, man, I hear what happened. That sucks, so what are you going to do about this? It's like, oh, I'm going to talk about the same topic, but I feel like you're on my side, or at least you're not condemning me.
At least let you get your side out.
Right, so I'm not being judged as harshly. So I think that, in a sense, is what you guys are doing. It's funny, I never thought about that before, but I've done that before. I've been with people that ask a question, and you're just like, you don't like me, you don't like the sport. Like, I can tell, I can feel it.
It's crazy how you've seen the media evolve in your career, because you started when there was no media.
So are there rules to what you do?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's the other thing about that too is I think if you demonstrate, and of course, with us being able to continue to do this now, even the guys that we don't know particularly well or whatever, they at least see our faces regularly, so they know, okay, this is a regular, if you will. But I think a lot of times it's also a matter of letting them know. I remember feeling this about Ronda Rousey pretty early on, because she suffered no fools, and a lot of times people would go, oh my gosh, I don't know, I heard her blow, I did this. I said, you know what? To me, I've always gotten along fine with her, but it's because I think she knew that I understood. I'd done my homework. I understood enough about the sport to talk to her about it. And, the biggest mistake you could make is just showing that you didn't have the respect to, it's like interviewing. And I always tell people, you're going to hear a bad interview if it's an interview with an author and the interviewer's first question is, tell me a little bit about this book.
Yeah.
That means I didn't read it, so you do the work for both of us.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times if you can endear them to the fact that, you let them know that you know something, then then they want to work with you. Then it becomes a two-way conversation.
When I first started out in 2001 in the UFC, up until probably 2006, more often than not, that was the interviews that we received where somebody basically was handed down, okay, you got to go down there and cover this event and ask this guy this question. And they had no clue. You sit there going through like, all right, so so what are the rules again? Like, well, how long are the rounds? And, you're like,
you off right away. You're like,
so right off the bat, I'm like, dude, you could have Googled it for 15 seconds. You know what I mean? Like, get on the internet for a second. You know what I mean? Like, really? They didn't send you a press packet, Like,
it still happens too, because there's many events. I'll be back in the back room and I'll see that exact same thing. You get a local news guy that comes in like, oh, it was just to sign this. What's happened? What have I missed?
It actually happened in San Diego real bad. They actually aired it the next day when I was in San Diego and I fought Todd Duffy, right?
Yeah.
So the sports guy, the local sports guy, put on this real just crazy people are here to watch bloodshed, and the more blood, the better. And this is like, look at that, they're watching this, and it was really a bad. Like, I'm looking at it going. I even actually called Dana. I'm like, okay, look, man, I don't normally complain. In fact, this is probably the first time ever at that time, 12, 13 years of being a fighter, that I've ever called up and said, this guy's a dick. Someone needs to go ahead and we need to flag this and identify as a person that, we don't want around.
And I think they've done a really good job. Credit to the UFC PR, because I've seen that happen where they're really good at keeping that sort of PR Rolodex of who should be there, and who
that's
isn't.
true.
And I think that's why I think a lot of upcoming people are always so upset, because it's not as easy as maybe some of the boxing where maybe they don't get the coverage, where a lot of press people don't get credentialed. And that's part of it, because they're trying to keep a certain sort of standard, a certain sort of level. And I've seen people get yanked and seen people get pulled, not talking about like the big cats like the Ariel and those guys when they did something that pissed off, but like just little things when somebody
for
shows
the most
up.
part, it's done in the right way where it's,
Yeah.
hey, we're going to go ahead and groom this. If you're not going to do your job to the best of your ability, then why be here?
I know I've benefited from that at times where, radio's a nomadic business and you change from station to station and company to company and things like that. But I feel like the UFC has always recognize the fact that I contributed, and I think they made long-term investments with their media members in that way, and not everybody has a huge profile, but I think that they recognize the fact that these people add to the conversation, and they're and even if they're a little, they may not be on the biggest station or working for the biggest website or whatever right now. That's not to say they won't be, and their work ethic actually demonstrates it. I'll tell you something funny. We were talking about interviewing and bad questions and stuff like that. Let me tell you a story about Frank Mir, not the Frank Mir the fighter, but Frank Mir the podcaster.
Okay.
I won't mention any names, but you know how this is especially the case in radio. A lot of the radio interviews when the UFC put fighters out that are on the cards are very early in the morning.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about, right? So a lot of times they could be very early in the morning, and depending on the time zone or whatever. I mean, sometimes you're talking to somebody at 6, 7 a.m. So we started the podcast, and Frank's super dedicated to doing this and everything. And I said, hey, man, I've got a couple of interviews lined up with these fighters that are on this card this weekend, but it's like a 8 a.m. taping or something. But I said, if you want to, because we normally tape at night, we're doing a night. I said, if you want to, I'll come over in the morning, we'll set up the gear, and we'll get them on the phone and talk to them, because it'd be better than just having my voice on. So we do. One of the interviews went fine. The other interview, we're talking to said fighter, and we're talking, and at one point I see Frank just kind of pulls his earbuds off and just kind of sets them on the table. Now, I thought he was upset about like the quality of the signal. Maybe we didn't have a good phone call or whatever. And we got done with that interview, and he was like, God damn. I said, what's wrong? He goes, I know exactly what that fighter was doing. They did not want to be there, and they were mailing in that interview, and we're asking good questions, and they weren't. And I was like, well, welcome to my world. Okay. Yeah, you didn't that, did you?
Okay, first of all, the reason why I was angry is because I've been there, and I still go ahead and fucking do the interviews.
Right.
Yeah.
And I sit there and go ahead. I mean, you got to realize, some days when we do as a fighter, I get, Dave Scholler comes to the hotel room. I have 2 hours where I'm going to answer the same fucking question every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It is part of the business. Do it. You know what I mean? Like, and then the part that frustrated me even more was like, okay, I get that you're upset. You don't want to be here, but this is part of your job. You should just suck it up and be a man. But we were actually asking decent questions that were somewhat entertaining, and they were like nothing. Where it's like, hey, man, here's really he was asking shit to be like, really push it your way. I was like, hey, your fighting style, actually, people might think it's closer to what it is. I think it's going to be a blowout, and this is why. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Yeah. I'm like, for real, dude? All right, bomb.
Did that guy lose, Frank?
No, he won. He won. I expected him to win.
Bastard.
As one-sided as I said the fight was going to be.
Okay.
Best thing too was though this was not a main event fighter. This was a we'll just say prelim.
Right.
Somebody that might be earlier on in their carear.
When we say a prelim on a certain event? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. but Frank was like, and by the way, who do they think they are? he's like, they're gonna go down to Starbucks today, and not a fucking person's gonna have any idea who they are when they're in line for their latte.
Those media tours are funny.
it.
We I remember one time in Rio, actually, it was Anthony Johnson when he was supposed to be fighting Vitor Belfort.
Yeah.
And we had a press room set up, and I was working from there because the internet in my hotel sucked. So I went to the PR room so I could actually get some stuff done. And Anthony Johnson was in there doing his media tour, just the phone calls one after another. And holy shit, when you say the same question, they're so repetitive. Like, it's literally the exact same question over and over and over, like 7 interviews in a row. It's got to be brutal. Dave Schaller, actually, to spice things up, he gave Anthony Johnson a word, a key phrase.
He does it with everybody.
So he said, like, some of them were crazy. Like, one of them was Danny Castillo's shoe collection. You got to, like, as he, you know, it got increasingly harder every time. And the last one he went was, it was really funny because it was Kevin Iole, and he's like, you gotta work in the term Speedo. And so Anthony Johnson is doing these interviews, and he played it off pretty well, but it was funny because whatever the question was, he basically talked about the fact that he's got fast hands and a lot of Speedo. And I knew it was Kevin Iole. So the next day, the first thing I did was pull up the story to see like what he wrote. And sure enough, he had used that quote, but just changed it to fast hands and a lot of speed. Yeah. But I thought that was hilarious. You know, the departing Dave Schaller.
I love that. I played that with Dave one time. I think maybe it was when we were in San Diego game. We played the game. Yeah. And he had 4 different things. It was like listening to Tupac or listening to Biggie on my headphones. I forgot what the other 3 were. Not only did I nail each one properly, but then in the last interview, he's sitting there and goes, fuck, man, no one's ever got like a 4 for 4. The last interview, I fit all 4 phrases into that interview in the sentence.
Wow.
He like threw his hands up in there. He goes, I'm like,
The GOAT phrase of all time.
When it comes as far as people that have taken brain damage in the sport, my IQ's higher than most.
I just want to say, because I know he's not with the UFC anymore, but Dave Schaller was awesome. He was really an amazing person to work with.
He's somebody I'll miss as part of this.
I have huge separation, like abandonment issues, and I don't like it when people move on to anything. I'm not one of these people. It's like, oh, John, what a great opportunity. You know, that's great. I just look at you like, you are leaving me? Why would you ever leave me? We were supposed to do this together forever.
I know,
Why would you ever do that?
I'm telling you, man, the next 6 months to a year or so are going to be weird to see how this company just kind of reinvents itself, because we've all been doing this thing for so long, and we've got our routines down. We know who to call. We know who to text. We know who to email. We know how it works. We know who to show up and talk to, all those things. And that's all going to change, man. It's interesting times.
Yeah. But while it still is the same, are we going to see the blue shirt next week in Mexico? Yes or no?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You're going to be there.
Absolutely. The only place I deviate is in Brazil. I'll wear a yellow shirt.
Oh yeah.
Because my wife bought me a bright ass yellow shirt for a Despicable Me birthday party that my kid had, and I'm like, when the hell am I ever going to wear this banana looking shirt? And I'm like, Brazil. So that's the only time I change it up.
I'm just waiting for this thing to get
a Derek Lewis fight.
Oh yes, and Derek Lewis makes me wear a red shirt because he came to me one time and he was like, man, that blue shirt gives me bad luck, man. I need you to change it up and wear like red or something.
What, did he lose or something?
Yeah, well, he had lost.
Well, it's because he always wears blue and he happened to lose and he blamed it on his shirt.
And basically when Derek Lewis tells you to do something,
the beast.
You gotta kind of do it. You just kind of do it.
You know, speaking of Derek Lewis, when the Reebok deal came in, you know, of course, all the sponsors went away and all that sort of thing, and everybody made their jokes about TrentCotney.com and Training Mask and all that. But the one I always thought about Derek Lewis, because he'd only fought a couple fights in the UFC at that time, and across his that expansive arse of his, he had the sponsor Mike's Seafood.
Oh yeah.
And I just thought to myself,
we ate at Mike's Seafood.
Was it good?
Okay, where is
Was it good?
It's in Houston. On the
okay,
outskirts
of course.
of Houston.
Okay, so this is playing into my theory. What I imagined was that Derek Lewis had worked out a deal with Mike's himself, probably at Mike's Seafood in Houston, where he lives, and that maybe once a Sunday, once a month or something, the whole Lewis family went down to Mike's Seafood, and there was a big feast laid out, and he got that patch on his butt.
I don't know if any money changes hands or not, but I can tell you that aspect of it is right. And Mike is actually an MMA fighter, and I wish I could remember his last name. Right?
Oh,
Fought on the regional stage, Legacy. I think he actually fought in, like, how Bellator will farm out their their prelims to local promoters.
He's
done
Bellator.
that. Yeah, he's fought in the Bellator card last time. But yeah, they've got like a shrine in there to Derek Lewis. There's photos of stuff like that, and yeah, it's open tab for Derek Lewis.
Well,
it's good food.
I was sorry to see the Mike's Seafoods of the world go away. Yeah. Another concept. I don't think we talked about this on the podcast before, but these guys get a kick out of this. We were talking about the media corps for the UFC. I have this idea to institute weight classes.
Okay.
Not for the fighters, but for the media.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Now, hear me out.
Okay.
Already
me out.
I'm not liking where this is
Hear
starting.
me out. It
Do you not feel like he's on your side?
Yeah, like, fuck this guy.
It was,
PR, where you at? Dave Stoller.
it was inspired. Let me tell you what happened. It was inspired by there was a particular scrum I was in.
Okay.
All right, and I think that scrum involved Conor McGregor. It was a popular fighter, but you know we got some big boys in that crew. And I was just thinking to myself, you know, this is such a hodgepodge of the way everybody's just kind of patched in here together. And, you know, people are trying, they come up with all these creative ways to, like, you know, duct tape two booms together. And then there's a snake that's dropping, you know, you got things dropping down in front of your head and everything. I just thought it would be fun. What if we did this? Where media outlets, what you did is you covered the weight class that you corresponded to. Okay.
Wow.
So you know, take MMA Junkie for example. They're going to want to make sure that they've got a top reporter who corresponds with every weight class. And then the day before the weigh-ins, imagine how much fun media weigh-ins would
that'd
be.
be great.
Where guys
That'd be
show up and they're just all sucked out, like Demetrius is fighting, and you know some poor bastard that walks around at 160s trying to cut to 125 so he can get this, you know, cover the main event.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
I'm vetoing your idea.
Terrible.
You got all the heavyweights.
Terrible.
Man.
Yeah, you got the
I
glamour
know.
division, John.
Baby.
We implement a super
I was about to
heavyweight
say, if they ever
class.
bring in super, I might even inch up there every now and then, you know? Sir.
I thought it was a fun idea.
Sir.
Hey, so real quick, I was going to ask you, since you're going to
About
Mexico.
that time of the night, I guess.
Yeah.
Since you're going to Mexico,
Yeah.
are you got Dos Anjos or Ferguson on this one?
Dude, I'm torn on that one, man. I got to be honest with you. I really like that fight a lot, man. I think Tony Ferguson is one of the most fun guys to watch, man. He's just the risk that he's willing to take, the stuff that he does, his unpredictability, it's fun. But he also gives up position, you know what I mean? He also gets hit. He puts himself in dangerous position. I mean, he was losing against Barboza, man. He was in trouble against Barboza. Even Venata, you know, was rocking him, and and that scares me to say, you know, great, you came back against Barboza. Not to say that it was you know, a fluke or anything like that. I mean, it was hard fought, but it was like you were losing the fight and then you won 1 second of it and you won. And that's what's amazing about MMA is that you can have those moments. You know what I mean? It's not like a basketball game where you're down by 20 in the fourth quarter and you're like, the hell am I even watching this for? You know what I mean? You can have that one punch or one move. Venata, a guy that, you know, is out of his weight class, it came in on short notice. You know, yeah, you weathered the storm, but dude, to say that you're going to weather the storm against Dos Anjos, I don't know about that. So I'm excited, man. Both guys, I think, are already down there, man. They're getting used to the altitude, which I think is wise. I think people are realizing. It's funny, man. Over the years of the sport, you know, as the travel has gotten bigger, you know, in the beginning, I remember guys would say, I don't need to go over early. Like, I'm good. Like, okay. Tell me how that works out for you on Saturday night. You know what I mean? These guys are getting it. They're understanding that they need to do it. So I'm pumped. You know, my heart kind of is pulling for Tony Ferguson just because I love watching the guy fight. I love his attitude. I love his spirit and, like, the winning streak that he's on. I feel like he deserves his moment in the spotlight. Man, I just feel like he gets damaged along the way, and I think against Dos Anjos, that's not going to be good. So my heart is saying Ferguson, but my head is saying Dos Anjos.
So your wallet is saying Dos Anjos.
Fortunately, my wallet doesn't have to say anything. So.
Yeah, are you watching that at all, Frank? Or are you going to be gone? Are you going to be gone?
I'll be gone, but I'll watch it.
Okay. All right.
I like, you know, I like Ferguson for all the same reasons. You know, the thing about Tony Ferguson is I've watched him the last couple of years. This guy has just something about him that can get you if you talk to him before any fight, he will have you convinced that his fight is going to be the biggest fight of the night. Yeah. And it's not even, he's not a trash talker like Conor McGregor. It's more just confidence. Oh. He's just got a solid sales pitch on that. But the thing is, then he delivers.
But it's real, too.
It is real.
It's real. Like Conor, it's real.
Yeah, it is real. And a lot of times it delivers. So I like watching. I also like it when a fighter has a signature finish, like Tony Ferguson and his Darce choke. I just like it when there's the certain thing that you're watching for him to nail. If in terms of the matchup, if I thought it was an opponent that was more prone to submission, I'd like Ferguson in this. But Dos Anjos has been submitted one time, and that was like that was Clay Guida, and it was like a jaw, like a. This is kind of a weird. I can't really go back, but it was like there was something kind of fishy about that one. So he's not exactly prone to
Ferguson
submission.
talking about his attitude to swagger. It's hilarious. Earlier this year, we were up in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It was one of those events where there was no media.
Yeah.
Couple of local media was there. They had an open workout session. By the time he was there, he was the last one for the open workout. The local media had left. They had others. They had like high school football games to go cover and other stuff, whatever. So it was literally just MMA junkie. So Tony Ferguson walks up, and it's time for his open workout. And I'm like, Tony, man, it's just us, man. Like, you really don't have to put on like the whole show. Like, we just want to get a quick scrum with you or whatever. He's like, nah, man, I'm doing this. And he straight up took his iPhone, hooked it up to a stereo, started playing his dance music that he does, and put on a whole like half break dance, half open workout for nobody to watch except for us. I was like, that dude is just keeping it real. That's just who he is. You know what I'm saying? It's not like he's doing something in front of the camera. So, man, I'm a big fan of that guy. I really am. But yeah, to your point, man, Dos Anjos a beast.
Frank, Eddie Bravo is going to be on his corner, from what I understand, on this fight. It's going to be on Tony Ferguson's corner. So, big difference changer, you think? Or
you know what? When it comes to night of the fight, cornering people, there's very few guys that I know that really affect as far as, like, I would consider Eddie Bravo probably more of a technical advisor. Okay. So, sit there and go, hey, he's looking for this, or you need to go for that. But as far as, night of the fight, I think the coaches is as far as able to be a general. So those guys make a difference. You know what I mean? Like, the Greg Jacksons of the world. Mark Delagratis. You know what I mean?
I like John Crouch, man. I think
John Crouch,
really
you're right, out in Arizona. You know what I mean?
Like
Like another good example of somebody that that I notice when someone says they're gonna have in their corner, I think might affect more. But as far as having the specialists. Bravo being a grappling specialist, I don't think it'll weigh into it that much, either way, to be honest with you. He could input almost any other high-level jiu-jitsu competitor and probably get the same, if not, results.
Jason on Facebook here, if we want to entertain a couple of Facebook questions before we close out, is
open bar, right? That's what we're calling it now? Open bar?
At least on ours, we're
I
calling
like
it
that.
open bar.
You got a benchmark.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Tell us what it is. What's open bar?
Well, open bar is just about reaching out and answering the fan questions.
We haven't really been doing fan questions.
We haven't
That's
been doing
great,
it, but I
man.
mean, I know
No.
that you guys have done it, and other ones.
Open bar is, I like that, and that's in radio call that a benchmark, and a benchmark needs a sponsor. So that's an easy thing to pitch a sponsor.
Yeah.
is,
So
you know what,
this
they-
could be like
Hopefully
open bar brought to you
Pabst
by
Blue Ribbon has some
Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Yeah.
Blue Ribbon.
that high-dollar beer that we drink.
Okay.
Well, Jason wants our thoughts on what's going on with the rumored Michael Bisping versus GSP match. For
Oh, we were
Toronto.
just talking about this last week.
Yeah, interesting. It's funny because it did run into GSP last week. Got a crazy tip as we happened to be going to go tape. Ran over. Basically, TMZ stalked GSP in the Aria. He was polite as he always is, but you could tell he was like, "What the fuck are you doing here? Like, leave me alone," But I asked him what he's doing in town. He said, "I'm just hanging out." Okay, whatever. But started, making some calls, and I had heard they were really trying to put this thing together. Michael Bisping and George St. Pierre. They were trying to do that as the main event for UFC 206, which I think would have done gangbusters, man. I think that would have saved that card, so to speak. I mean, 205 and 207 are so great. 206 a little bit lackluster, and it's funny because Canada just seems to keep getting the shaft, so to speak, man. It's not through any purposeful plan, but they just keep getting hosed over and over. So they've been trying like hell to put this together. Michael Bisping has been tweeting that he's in. He's all about it. He's done. He's suspended for 60 days from his last fight. That's 63 days after that they could clear it. He's done, but they just can't get this deal done. For whatever reason, they can't get this deal done. And I had heard that George met with Ari, that he met with Dana, and that everybody was on board, but I don't know if George's representation was at the meeting. And I guess when he went back and spoke to his representation, they decided, hey, maybe this isn't the best approach. Maybe this isn't the best deal. Maybe we're still not comfortable with it. I got to be honest. I'm disappointed. I just thought for George, it made all the damn sense in the world.
Yeah.
For the UFC, it made all the damn sense in the world. To me, it was one of those things that's so obvious you find a way to make it happen. And for Bisping would seem to be the wild card, right? Like, he's the one that's got beat up a couple of months ago and survived it. And for him to say, yes, I'm down, I figured, cool, we got ourselves a fight. And Dana texted me last night and said, look, Mike wants it, but it's not happened. And then George put that video out today where he said, I'd love to fight you in Toronto, but it's not happening. I don't know, man. It's one of these things that's weird to me. And I don't know, Frank, maybe you can talk about it. But, like, I get, like, holding out for a specific price or a specific, clause. I mean, there's a lot that was said about Under Armour versus Reebok and all that stuff. But this, to me, just seemed like one of those things where you're like, the show needs a main event. It's in Toronto. Let's find a way to get it done, man. Let's find a way to bridge the gap. And for whatever reason, even though last week when we sat down, we started hearing about it. We started thinking about it. The next day I started following up, and it sounded like it was going to happen. Now it sounds like it's not going to happen. I don't know, man. I guess George wants a certain price and certain clauses and all those things, but I don't know. I feel like like, strike when the iron's hot. Do it at the exact right time. If he comes back at 2:08 in Atlanta or whatever, like, the hell, who cares?
Yeah, Frank. This goes back.
Me, I've always erred on the side of just fighting.
Right?
Yeah.
That's true. Actually.
I have. I mean,
Frank's never. Yeah, that's true. Frank always.
The only time I've ever actually didn't jump on a fight was when they first offered me Roy Nelson, and that's just because we have, not that Roy and I are close friends. We never.
But y'all been running the same circles.
We run in the
for
same
a
circles.
long time.
And the thing is, it's like, for example, one of my closest friends is best friends with one of his closest friends. In fact, James Johnson is one of his cornermen. That guy was one of my groomsmen in my wedding. You know what I mean? Like,
that's crazy.
So, like, literally during that fight, I'm looking across at one of the guys I was closest to for years. And it's not that the fighters, and that's what I tried to explain. We're like, oh, you fight anybody. I'm like, yo, Roy and I don't give a shit. We'll fight each other, every day until, the end of the year, The people around us are not going to understand. They're not. Right. They're going to pick sides. They're not going to be okay with it. And I was right. It actually caused a lot of drifting between our camps and circles. We trained at the same spots. We moved around, and it made things awkward. Because it's weird when you have, like I said, fighters can get over it. It's the people around. So that's the only time I was ever like, fuck, I don't really want to do this. Yeah. And, basically you're given the, like, well, if you don't fight now, I don't know when I can give you a fight. All right. And then actually that morning I saw Roy at the gym together. We're walking, like, so, hey, they call you. Yeah. What do you want to do? Like, well, we either fight each other or we don't fight for a year is what I'm being told. I'm like, yeah, so we're going to fight. Yeah. When do you want to work out? I'll take mornings on Monday, Wednesday, and you could, so we just flip-flopped our training schedule to use the same facilities.
I don't think people understand that sometimes. Like, the whole thing about, teammates should be willing to fight and whatever. Like you said, man, it's not necessarily that the fighters themselves can't get over it. I just don't think
we fight each other all the time in the gym.
The ripples that has around you, man.
Yeah, but everybody around us, the wives, the friends, it causes turmoil in there. And then when you have a cohesive camp and people training together, and like I said, it wasn't like Roy and I were on the same team, really, we're both kind of lone wolves in that approach. But you have camps like when they sit there, like, like the alpha team, not wanting to fight each other, or American Kickboxing Academy say we're not going to fight each other, I get it, you know what I mean? It's not like, hey, we get it, but then we go fight and I'm hurting you and you're hurting, what I mean? The people around us, it makes so many other things awkward.
And I'll say one more thing real quick and we'll take more questions, but I think GSP actually had a great explanation for it. And I think it was GSP and Marquardt that they were talking about fighting at one time, and he had a quote I thought was awesome. If you really want the best fight possible, if you're a fan and you really want the best fight possible, if you're putting two guys that are friends, training partners, that sort of thing together, let's say you get into a position where you're on top, you're ground and pounding, and you need a couple more big shots, but that guy on top is thinking, this is my friend that I'm going to cause brain damage to. Or like for you, Frank, you're in a hold where you got that arm bar, and you're like, God damn it, don't make me actually break your arm right now. You know what I mean? Where if it's not
somebody, cause limitations.
You know what I mean? Like, even if it's a split second, even if it's just that one.
Well, here's the mindset that a fighter has to have when he walks into that octagon. Boxing ring, whatever it is. Some people sit there and go, and it's funny because a lot of people that don't fight think, well, you got to hate the guy, you got to be angry. I'm like, no, man, there's no hatred, there's no anger. Even guys that I might hate, I could really dislike you. If we're about to go compete, that's not the actual emotional mindset. It's that I'm going to dominate you.
Right.
That I'm going to own you. You know, like there has to be that, like, I'm going to be better than you. I'm going to dominate the shit out of you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to stand over you and piss on you. You know what I mean? Like that kind of, you know what I mean? Like,
I don't know where you've been training.
This is how we do it, Richard.
But
where I come from, that costs a lot of money.
Yes,
and
it
it's
does.
not the easiest way to shift into it. That's why there's a difference between sparring, and you want to do well and win, but, you know, you crack your buddy in sparring and his legs shake, you might not throw that next shot.
Right.
You might not go ahead. I think I have you, but I don't. I'm not going to put that, you know. Or even in training, you know, if I'm squeezing something and you make out a yelp, I'm like, oh, shit, are you all right, man? What was that, you know? That could happen in a fight when you have two guys that are friends. One guy has another guy, and he makes a weird noise that doesn't sound right, and you're like, oh, you know, where if it's somebody you want to dominate, you're like, yeah, you know, you're going for that, you know. And so again, you're right. Like to put to what George said, yeah, that's true. You want two guys that, you know, we can be cordial with each other and cool, but you don't want two guys that are friends to fight each other. It's not going to make a great fight. You know, when it comes down to just that killer instinct, pulling the trigger, there's going to be a hesitation. Even if you can pull the trigger, you can't tell me that you're not going to hesitate. There's not going to be that split second of just and then go, you know?
Yep. I get it, man. I believe it.
Hey, just to jump quickly, because I know we got a ton of people that have been trying to do questions, and I feel like we're already running pretty long. But just to go to the 206, just opening to one question that somebody threw to us was, what do you think, and this is from Proteus, what do you think of the newly announced Pettis versus Holloway fight?
I was going to say
and
that.
is it enough to save the 206 card?
Not enough to save the 206 card. It's kind of weird. I was thinking that would have been a Vegas card because there's so many Hawaiians here in Vegas, and then Pettis. You know, so I don't know exactly why they're putting that on 206. I don't think it would save the card. I think
Certainly
Bisping
helps.
GSP
I think you're right.
helps,
It's a great fight. You know, it's like Duho Choi and Cub Swanson's on that card. Amazing
yeah,
fight.
yeah.
Not going to sell a million pay-per-views.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just not George St. Pierre. I love the fight. Almost feel bad for Max Holloway, man. You think about it, man. Holloway is on like a 9-fight winning streak right now. You got the champ of the division, Conor McGregor, chasing the lightweight belt. Good for him. You got Jose Aldo, the interim champ, saying, I don't know if I want to fight again. I don't know. So the champ and the interim champ, I mean, what the hell? Do you make an interim belt? Yeah. I mean, I feel like Max Holloway's in the worst
boxing,
position.
we would have like the international or the
it'd be
silver.
the intercontinental title.
You know,
So I feel awful for Max Holloway. But you know what, man? It makes me respect him even more because obviously Pettis is a dangerous opponent. I mean, you know, he's had some losses, and you know, he won his first fight at 145. He didn't dominate Charles Oliveira. You know, but he's still like so athletic, and I think, man, it's funny because I've said this since his WEC days. I think his jiu-jitsu is incredibly underrated, dude. Everybody thinks of him as a striker because he kicked off the cage and all that, and he is a great striker. But I think his jiu-jitsu is phenomenal. So you know what, man? I love the fight.
Not a lot of people armbar Benson Henderson.
Exactly, right? That dude, everybody thought you couldn't tap
I
him.
didn't think you could tap. After I watched Donald Cerrone stick him in the omoplata Kimura, I'm like watching him. Like I remember when I was announcing that fight. I'm like, oh, Donald's, you know, Cowboys in trouble. Oh, this is in. In fact, to the point where I started shutting up. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to call submissions anymore because I'm wrong.
What do I know, right?
Yeah, I guess I don't know what I'm talking about. Most people, their arm is separated at this point. I don't know how this guy is able to keep on fighting.
Yep. I love the fight, man. I think it's a great fight, and I respect the hell out of Holloway for taking it, man. That dude just loves to scrap, man. And if he wins this fight, dude,
gotta give him the title.
figure out something, man.
Yeah.
Conor, Aldo, strip them both. Just hand him the damn title. Hand him both titles. You were the champ and the interim champ at the same time.
Yeah, it's not enough to quote unquote save a card in terms of, you know, something that's going to headline it, but it makes one hell of a co-main event.
For hardcores like us, we're
yeah, absolutely. And I have to say on a personal level, that's one where I got to put my impartiality aside because I discovered the last time I saw Max Holloway that he is a huge fan of my dog Mel's documentary. Mel is over there. He came up to me and said that he and his wife.
Him and his wife are the nicest people.
They were very nice, and he brought his wife over.
So nice.
It was weird because he came. I was standing there waiting to talk to Dan Henderson. It was like a media day type thing, and he was over. Holloway was over on his stool. It was in L.A., right? And he's over there. And I was about to talk to Henderson, and he taps me on the shoulder. I turn around, and he'd left his stool. Like, he'd walked all the way over, saw me over there, he testing, and he said, he's got that Hawaiian accent, and he goes, "Are you champions?"
Wait, we actually have audio of this.
Like that. You do?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wait, of who? No, we didn't have this one.
We don't have audio of the Max Holloway?
Oh, I see what's happening here. How did it? Yeah, that's right. I heard you guys had
play that back real
quick. You guys
quick.
found some audio.
Fucking put me on the spot. Fuck you both. I haven't had enough fucking whiskey to start.
Boy,
I was thinking it was too much whiskey. I'm like, what's going on here?
I may not be the only person who's rooting for Max Holloway, because if you're the world's leading Max Holloway impersonator right now, you need a high profile win to really increase demand for this impression. No. So I was standing in line, and he tapped me on the shoulder. He turned around and he goes, are you champions, like that? And it took me a second for it to click in what he was talking about. He's talking about Mel's documentary, which is called The Champions, which is on Netflix right now. And I said, "Oh, my dog Mel." He's like, "Yeah, my wife and I watch it and cry." And he brought her over, and she's like, "Oh, I love it. We're telling all our friends and everything." So now, consequently, he's Mel's favorite featherweight fighter. So
that's awesome. And I guess maybe for our audience that might not know, Michael Vick rescued dog.
Yeah, did you notice he's sitting right over here in the corner?
Just chilling.
He's very quiet. He's like our cameraman over there.
Buddy.
But he comes over every week for tapings, and normally he's playing with Frank's little dogs. And, that's Mel. And there's a documentary about him and some of the other dogs that were rescued from Michael Vick's dogfighting ring called The Champions. And you can see it on Netflix right now, and so we're real proud of it. But, it was cool. It was cool that he had seen it and
good people, man.
mentioned it.
Really
he seemed like it. Yeah, because I'd never really had a personal conversation with him before that.
I'm not going to try to.
Come on. Cold coffee. Come on.
I'm not going to do it.
I just hope that Holloway goes on this world beater streak, so that a year from now, Cold Coffee is in as much demand as that Conor McGregor impersonator that walks around.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Is awesome.
All right, just a couple more quick questions here before we sign off. Henry or Henri, depending on if he's French-Canadian, I'm not sure, asks you, Frank, what is your favorite cigar?
The one Sifu gave him tonight.
A Padron, the 1926 is one of my favorites.
Those are
Maduro.
That's the box press, the Maduro. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, dude, that's literally my favorite cigar, too.
It's an awesome cigar, right?
Love that one.
There's other ones out there I like a lot. Opus makes great cigars. The Triple X, it's hard. I like darker cigars, which in the cigar world, Maduro wrapper type, which tend to be a little bit higher in nicotine. And usually, if you're a novice cigar smoker, it might get you a little lightheaded. But there's a few. But I'm pretty easy. You know what? Here's something I'll throw out there that actually probably cigar aficionados will be like, get out of here. I like acid cigars too. They're not, they're
acid.
Well, no,
it's a brand.
It's a brand.
they were popular in the late 60s around Haight-Ashbury.
They're amazing.
But it's funny because I'll have nice cigars that I'll get and I keep here at the house, and $25 a stick. So when I was younger, I used to be like, hey, everybody want a cigar, and then I sit there and watch people smoke 2 or 3 pulls from it, and I'm like, Jesus, dude, you finished that cigar, and they're like, no, I'm okay. So then I discovered this called the Acid Blondes, and they're
It's a great punk band back in the day.
Sounds like it.
Yeah,
the Blondies, they're like $6, $7 a stick, and then but I'll smoke those too, especially when I'm up at the property, because then I turn into a chain smoker. I smoke almost 2 or 3 cigars a day, so financially it's good to stick to a couple of those. And they're a blended cigar, and so it's not like a true full leaf and stuff, but I like them.
Before Frank, before he knew that I didn't smoke, he had tried to offer me a cigar, and I looked at it and it said, "It's a boy" on it. I was like, well, how long have you had this? Do they
just lying around waiting to give it to somebody.
Do they still do that, by the way? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Cigars when you have a kid?
Oh, yeah.
Do you do that?
I smoke cigars on every occasion I can find.
Oh, okay.
So.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I love about taping the show.
Yeah.
I get to tell the wife, "We can smoke a cigar." Yeah, this is part of my thing now.
Got to.
Yeah, Frank told me that he asked me fairly recently. He was like, "But does it ever bother you that I'm smoking cigars out here when we're doing the show?" I said, "No." I said, "You do it so often. The smell I associate with doing the pot. It's like Pavlovian." The other day, I was at the brothel. A guy started smoking a cigar, and I just went right into the podcast. I didn't even realize you were there for a second.
Right?
Yeah, yeah. Here's one from Nathan. Nathan wants to know what's our opinion on Rory McDonald in Bellator, and do you think he will take over? And if he does take over, will he take over at 170 or 185 or both?
Dude, first of all, Koreshkov is a beast over at Bellator, man. So I don't think anything is assumed. I'm anxious to see, man. Rory McDonald. I will say this: the UFC has done a pretty good job of evaluating talent and deciding when it's time to let somebody go. And I'm kind of anxious to see what he has left, man. I have all the respect in the world for Rory McDonald. I have all the respect in the world for anybody that steps in there. So, I don't want to sound condescending or anything, but his body has been through a lot, man, and his nose has been through a lot, man.
Yeah, his nose alone.
Yeah.
He admits it's breaking in training now. It's breaking and just – so, I mean, like – that scares me a little bit. You know what I mean? That so the first jab you take of the night, there's a potential that your nose might break on the first strike of the night. Like, that's scary. So, man, I think this was a smart move for Rory. I mean, I've always said I think there's two kinds of fighters in this sport. Like, there's fighters that it's important to them to feel like they're the best in the world, that they want to fight at the highest level. And then there's other fighters that just want to put as much money in the bank as they can. If they want to fight in a smaller pond and they're okay with saying, I'm not in the highest tier, but I'm making a nice paycheck over here. And I think Rory, I think it was a smart move for everybody involved, man. I think for Rory to take a little bit step down, let his body heal a little bit, maybe fight, a little bit less of a talent pool because Rory ain't getting anybody but the absolute monsters of the world every time he goes out. What's wrong with going out there and maybe getting a couple fights that aren't necessarily the top 5 guys in the world right now? You know what I'm saying? So I think it's a smart move. Can he take over there? We'll see, but Koreshkov's a beast, man. That's not an easy fight for anybody.
And he's also young enough that what happens if he does go over to Bellator and he does go on an undefeated run and he does hold their belt hostage? Then when his deal's up, now imagine him coming back to the UFC. I mean, now
look at a guy like Jordan Meehan who was like, I'm done. He was like, in his mid-20s, is like, I'm done. Took some time away, let himself heal up, let maybe the mind get right, and now he's coming back. All the respect in the world. I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
Verdun was cut from our organization.
Oh, yeah.
Went over, became Strikeforce champ, and then
he became the champ.
He became the champ.
Became the champ here.
Yeah.
Well, and it's an interesting time to do it, too, with all the, we started off talking at the beginning of the show about all the changes in the UFC and everything, and not that means that anybody's going to take over tomorrow as the world's #1 organization, but Frank, as you said last week on the show, if there was ever the right timing to try to make a move, to try to get noticed, to try to get your organization, moved up in terms of recognizability, it's when the #1 group has a lot of things going on. There's a lot of distractions.
Well, the other thing, too, is I think Scott Coker, if you look back through the history of, Strikeforce, he's not opposed to making matches. I mean, there were a lot of fights in Strikeforce where you could look on the card, and if you were like a bettor or something, it was pretty easy to go like, that guy's going to win, that guy's going to win, that guy's going to win, that guy's going to win. They were kind of showcase fights. They're still fun as hell. I mean, every now and then you like a beat down. You know what I mean? The people do sometimes #1
Pride
versus
did that a
#2.
lot. That's why we liked Pride.
Hell yeah! Sometimes #1 versus #2 isn't the most fun fight because they're so equal.
I think most of the time it's not the fun fight.
Absolutely.
I think if I was a matchmaker, honestly, if I ever was to run an organization, I would probably take more of a note out of boxing, where I would want to see people put on great shows where I'm like, hey, you want to see somebody do a flying, spinning hook kick and knock someone out? Don't put him against a guy who's within his abilities.
Right, because he can't throw that.
Yeah, because a lot of times you see 2 guys that are great fighters. You see the 2 best fighters in the world. You see the 2 best football teams in the world go against each other. 2 best basketball teams. It's a battle, and a lot of times those battles are boring for spectators. Hardcore fans enjoy watching that battle back and forth, but as far as a casual spectator, they want to see a knockout. You want to see a submission. You want to see someone get mauled.
How are you going to get the GIF flying around the internet or whatever?
Right.
How are you going to get the highlight that everybody wants to see?
Yeah, you want to see a highlight reel? Well, I'll put the number 4 guy against an unranked guy.
Yeah.
And you know what? And then he does that 2 or 3 times, and then I can position him to fight maybe one legitimate top 3 or 4 guy, and then fight for the title. That's what boxing does. I mean, until you're
styles
fighting,
make fights.
Yeah, styles make fights. You know, until the said boxer fights for the championship, he might fight one top 10 guy. Before that, it's all a string of guys that he's out there mauling. You know, I mean, Mike Tyson. Remember in the '80s when he was knocking people out, crazy, up, 19-0, 19 knockouts. Yeah. You couldn't name any of those 19 guys.
He wasn't knocking out the number 1 contender every time. Yeah.
I mean, eventually it worked up to where he was fighting the big
he was
fight.
fighting the champs. He was,
It got to there.
Yeah.
But even a talent like that, you didn't, in his 3rd fight, put him against a killer. And that's one thing that happens in the UFC especially is there are no – I mean, we say it all the time. Well, there's never any easy fights. That's why it's so hard to bet. You go out there, it's like, well, I mean, he should win, but I mean, the other guy he's facing is pretty good too. Yeah. And one guy has a little bit of an off night. The guy that might be not as good, he's having a good night. Well, guess what? They're so close in ability that it comes down to who ate a better breakfast, who's feeling better.
Yeah. Weidman was like 9-0 when he won the title, right? I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you could be less than 10 fights in your career and fighting Anderson Silva. It's nuts.
Well, we got, what is it, Cody now? Cody Garbrandt's fighting.
Yeah, 10-0.
10-0. He's fighting Dominic
Cruz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that fight.
Lastly, somebody wants to know. By the way, if you don't mind me producing on the air here for a second, my girlfriend Jennifer just showed up. Are you Snapchatting for us?
He told us your orchard story.
Oh, great.
We talked about how he loved going out there pushing the wheelbarrow.
Look at that bus just came through here. What is that?
I tried to salvage it. He actually had a good time. He was actually trying to convince me to go up there.
Yeah, he sold us on
You
it.
can listen to it on the podcast.
That's right. That's right. No, I just wanted to make sure she turned on our Snapchat here. She's kind of our volunteer producer sometimes. Did you guys? Are you guys doing Snapchat?
We don't have Snapchat.
What? You're not doing Snapchat?
What is going on?
My girlfriend needs to step her
Cold
game
coffee.
up.
I'm telling you. Yeah. No, go ahead and you get that MMA Roadshow.
You were
handle.
forward thinking. We just basically said, like, is there a way that we could just, like, drink and talk MMA? We're like,
I did actually,
I
did actually set it up, but I find myself only using it so I could take pictures of myself with that fucking flowers and the shit over it. I've never actually used it for anything. But
Yeah, Frank's used to a whole different deal from me. It's like anytime we're doing anything of note, I've got, okay, let's see, I Instagram this, now I tweet it in. Now, hold on, Frank, don't go anywhere yet. I need you to.
No, and I asked the wife on me because I'll go out to seminars and she's with me. We were just out in Denver, and I'm sitting there at the end of questions and stuff because I'll teach for about 2 hours. Then you get a half hour of signing autographs, taking pictures. I always do like a Q&A at the end. Ask me anything. It could be how to get out of a certain move, how to apply something, or how did I feel in a certain fight, or whatever.
That's cool. Fans love that, I'm sure.
And so at the end, I'm like, all right, guys, we all shook hands. She's all, did you tell them to listen to your podcast? Like, oh shit, had to run back on the mat. Everybody, I have a podcast. She's like, what are you doing? I'm all, I don't have that kind of brain. I keep forgetting to think business.
It is funny though that I've seen you're getting accustomed to that because like we'll go someplace and people want to take a photo or something and they're hey, thanks for the time, they're walking away, they don't want to bother me anymore, and Frank's like, have you listened to my podcast? I have a podcast I want to talk to you.
It takes me a second. Yeah. It's kind of like how I had to do the Snapchat and Final Blue fighting. Like I'm still not quite there on selling it yet.
We had a situation a couple of weeks ago. We were broadcasting. We go out about once a month and do a live show at No Regrets Bar. It's owned by some friends of ours.
Coffee. What are you doing when they do a live show at a bar?
And that could be the open bar segment.
Yeah, open bar.
The next
bar.
time, why don't we organize the next time that we all do get together, the four of us, 5, we'll
I see how it is, Frank. The 4 of you.
I said 5.
Okay.
I threw it up.
We knew you would be there regardless. We knew you'd be there regardless.
We'll do that. But no, Frank, this is how serious Frank takes his podcasting. So we're sitting there and we're recording our podcast or whatever, and this is a drunk guy walks by. We're on a patio outside, and he was something kind of leans over, half drunk, whatever, and he's all kind of touchy on Frank. Frank's like, excuse me just a second. He put headphones off and everything. He goes over, I can see the guy, and I see him talking. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? I get a little closer, and I'm hearing Frank go, listen, I'm podcasting, and this takes a lot of work. I don't know if you understand, but what you just did is going to have to be edited out of the broadcast. And that was rude. And his friend, who I think maybe had a better grasp of the situation and who Frank was in the background going, what are you doing? You have drank way too much. Let me get you out of here.
The part that pissed me off is I went over, and I was being nice. I still was like, hey, over there, we're doing this, blah, blah, blah. It's a fucking podcast. It's not like it's live.
That's what the guy said.
Yeah. So then after and then there was like 2 or 3 more comments like, do you even fight anymore? Like type things where I was like, you're being a fucking asshole. So basically I had to punk the guy in front of everybody.
I'll fight right now.
Like, you know what? And then the guy's like, I didn't realize. I'm like, the shit you didn't. You just were taking advantage of the fact that you thought that I was nice because I started out with my best foot forward, that you could be a dick. You thought you could be, you were a decent sized guy. I'm like, I will choke you the fuck out in front of everybody right now. There's no cameras around. It'll be my word versus your word. I won't leave a mark, but I'm going to make you have a nasty taste in your mouth when this is all said and done.
Wow.
And the guy had no idea that you probably had like 3 guns and 4 knives on you at the time.
But I would have made sure that he would have had a story to tell his grandchildren.
Speaking of you guys obviously are aware of Frank and his affinity for
weaponry,
firearms,
an arsenal.
Yeah. An arsenal.
I'm gonna pick his brain afterwards.
we did a swap cast with Fighter and the Kid with Brendan Schaub and Brian Callen, and we did it in the dressing room of they did a live show at the Hard Rock, and so we just set the recorder in the middle of the table. We did a swap cast. Well, Brian started talking to Frank about guns, and he's not a gun guy, but he's very fascinated by the subject or whatever, and he starts talking. And I guess I was probably not as used to. I don't think we traveled together yet or whatever. I wasn't used to this whole thing just quite yet. And so it should have been a sign when there was a person. There was a person from the hotel in the dressing room.
I remember this.
And Callan was asking Frank. He was like, he's like, yeah, I hear you talking about guns. I hear you got that. What do you got on you? Why do you got something on you? What do you got? And Frank kind of surveys the room and he goes, who is he? And he points to the guy with the hotel. And he goes, oh, he works here at the hotel. And Frank's like, oh, I'll wait. Like that. He's waiting for him to leave. So the guy left, and he starts pulling out these firearms and he was demonstrating like how you would draw down under duress, and there's things flying everywhere. And Brendan Schaub and I, who do not know each other very well,
you guys got close to each other.
We did. We were like, I was huddled together like this, and and he's this huge heavyweight, and he's whispering in here. He's like, dude, I do not like this shit. I'm like, I know, it's weird, right?
That's great.
Well, one thing's having a gun, but another thing is using it, deploying it.
Yeah.
Just because you have a firearm on you doesn't mean it's of any use.
It's funny because obviously being a Las Vegas guy, like I've your reputation around the community, people know that you have an affinity for this. But what I didn't know, and that I learned through the podcast, Phone Booth Fighting, is just the education level and how serious you take it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's not just like, I'm a jackass that just likes to carry guns. I mean, you talk about, like, situational awareness and stuff like that. I mean, you treat it like jiu-jitsu.
It's a martial art.
Yeah.
Martial arts incorporate.
A very effective martial art.
Well, yeah, it's the best form, right? Firearms and knives and weapons. That's just an extension of you as a martial artist. And and honestly, I never started doing martial arts, and I still don't train martial arts for the sole purpose of winning a fight and getting paid. I train martial arts because I love martial arts. I want to be able to fight, and I like what it does for me on a mental level. It's my furnace that I mold myself in. But at the end of the day, I want to be able to protect myself too. And if you really train, you start realizing how inefficient fighting somebody really is. Humans, we're just not designed anymore to really cause that much damage. A chimpanzee could destroy us right now, right? 3 guys that are in decent shape are going to cause me a lot of problem in a street fight, and that's if they don't grab something and try to hit me over the head with it, and so if you're out with your wife or your children and somebody, is up to no good, how do you protect what's yours? And, and hopefully, because of the drama that would occur from that situation, legally and just emotionally, I never really want to run into that. But I'm prepared, and I think about it every day. Just like, what would happen if someone did try to intervene with my way of life? You know, what would happen if someone came over and tried to hurt one of my children or hurt my wife? And, you know, obviously I'm a well-spoken guy. I'm going to try to work my way through strategically. I'm not above avoiding situations. I've been out places where I see guys drinking, staring at me a weird way, like, hey, honey, it's time to go. You know, I don't have anything to prove to anybody. I'm looking for the most efficient way to protect myself or protect my loved ones, and that might not always mean violence. But guess what, man? If you're not capable of being violent, you're not truly safe. I hate to break the news to everybody. If you don't agree with me, then you don't like this country. Why is our country able to say and do and be a world leader? We spend more money on the military than next 19 or what was it?
Yes. And some might argue that's a bit excessive. But
It could be, but you know, if you don't have the ability to carry out violence, if that's not an undertone that you are capable of doing, then you're relying on other people. And I'll hear people tell that to me, like, well, you know, the police are there. I'm like, I have a lot of friends that are police officers, and I am a big supporter of the community, of law enforcement. They bring law and order. I mean, everybody talks shit about cops until all of a sudden, you know, you need one. And then it's like, well, where are the cops at? Well, guess what? Takes them a little while to get there, you know. And even if a cop got to you in 5 minutes, what could someone do to you in 5 minutes? Yep. You know what I mean? Like, you know, a lot could happen. And so if you're not as a man, I guess I take that role on in my family that, you know, you're there to protect. I mean, not only do you provide financially and emotionally to your loved ones, but you have to, protect them physically. You know, and if you're not capable of doing that, or if there's, you know, and being violent doesn't always mean that you have to win the violent altercations. I've explained that to people too. There's situations where I've seen where I'm like, well, I might not win. You know what I mean? I mean, I only have so many rounds on me. So, you know, someone walks in with an AR-15 into the bar or, you know, into a restaurant where I'm with my wife and kids. I don't know if I'm going to win the situation, but I'm definitely going to put up one hell of a battle. Dude, I'm not going to, you know, go away peacefully into the night. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to know. I mean, there's rounds flying back at them.
It's not going to be a showcase fight.
It's not like, I mean, a situation like, you know, if I was in a theater and a guy walked in with a firearm, I'm not going to be a helpless victim and my wife and kids cuddle in the corner while we're hoping the guy walks past us and doesn't put a round into me.
Frank's got all those thoughts going on in his head, and when we're traveling together, all I'm thinking is, how are we going to explain this if we get pulled over? You know, like,
that's why I'm all legal and above board.
My whole life, anytime a cop has asked me, do I have weapons in the car, the answer's been no. Now it's, where do I start?
Yeah, and every time I get pulled over, I get spoken to by officers. I don't pull the "you know who I am" thing. I'm pretty cordial. You know, I'm very, you know, hey, they're nervous as I'm nervous. They don't know who the hell I am. I could be some fucking crackhead felon that just, you know, real quick, that's actually the first words out of my mouth. Anytime I get pulled over, and it's not even, you know, hey, officer, you know, sir, real quick, I let you know I am armed, you know what I mean? I keep my hands there. What would you like me to do? What do you have on you? That's always kind of a funny conversation. I'm like, all right, what part of the car are we talking about? Why don't I step out and I'll just explain to you all.
I'm not just happy to see you, okay?
But you know what? I've never had an officer draw a weapon on me, and I mean, I have more, you know, I'm
you haven't been pulled over with me yet, though. Let me tell you, what's going to happen is they're going to look at it, he's going to say to his partner, the big guy looks okay, but I think he's got his dealer with him. I'm not sure.
That guy next to him looks shady.
That's right. All right, I got to plug a couple of things here real quick because Frank and I both have dates this weekend. Frank is going to be doing a seminar Saturday. Frank, where are you headed?
I'll be in Garden Grove, California. They're at the NAMFAM MMA Academy, and I'll be doing a seminar. I think it's at 11 o'clock, and they're doing pre-registration on the line. But obviously there's a number, and I posted on my social media if anybody wants to come down and train or just come down and meet me and hang out a little bit, ask a couple questions up in person. And, you know, like I said, I always do the seminar for instructional purposes, and I always save time to sign things and answer questions.
I got a couple of appearances Friday at Real MMA. Real MMA is having another event at Sam's Town Casino here in Las Vegas. So if you're in the area, make plans to come to that.
We didn't even talk about that. Are we going to say that?
Yeah, that's all. Frank and I have breaking news of our own.
We do.
Okay.
That we can't reveal. But just if you're let me just say this: if you're an MMA roadshow listener who may be finding about Phone Booth Fighting for the first time, if you subscribe, then next week's episode we may have some fun news for you.
I like it.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
so I'll be at Real MMA on Friday night at Sam's Town Casino, and then Sunday
It's gonna
night.
trip you out.
Oh, it'll
night-
trip me out.
You're gonna trip out on it.
Sunday
See, he's
night.
tripping out. Okay.
Sunday night, I will be doing stand-up comedy at LA Comedy Club in the Stratosphere Hotel and Casino once
You guys
again.
should listen to
I
this,
gotta
by
get
the
over.
way.
I gotta get over there one.
Yeah,
of
no,
these days.
seriously.
Yeah, yeah,
Cold
yeah.
coffee.
We need to.
Listen,
Yeah.
Richard is awesome.
Yeah, I've been
He is
going.
actually really good.
There's
Yeah.
like a little bar by the house, Boomers, where we've actually taped a couple shows.
Mm-hmm.
But they do like a stand-up night there on some Sundays or whatever. And I
Oh,
was
right.
talking to the guys about that particular place, and they said it's a really good place to check out. So
It's a great room,
Now that
yeah.
I know that you're there, I will definitely have to go check it out.
8 p.m. showtime Sunday night at the Stratosphere. And for any Phone Booth Fighting listeners or MMA Roadshow listeners, if you're in the Las Vegas area on Sunday night, hit me up on social media. I'll put you on my guest list just because you're a
It
listener
is worth.
to
It
the
was
show.
funny the first time I saw him do stand up. We'd already been friends, for a little bit, and I was actually sitting next to his girl, and I'm sitting there, and he's up doing a set, and I'm laughing my ass off. I'm like, oh, thank God, he's so funny, And I told him, I'm like, I am so glad that he's good at this, because what kind of conversation? Because we're very honest with
it's
each
gonna
other.
suck.
If I had been like. Or like, what if no one laughs? Am I obligated as his friend to try to like
Bellyache laughing back, just trying to set
Try to get the
laughter
crowd
bomb
going?
off.
No, we were good. Everybody was laughing.
Well, real quick for you guys, since he brought that up. So one of the first things I found out about Frank when we started hanging out was he found out I did stand-up comedy, and he said, oh, I love stand-up comedy. Love it. And he goes, I've always wanted to do that. And I said, oh, well, sometime we'll have to try that, And so it's been maybe 2 months ago now,
Yeah.
something like that. Frank made his debut.
Yeah, I
and
was gonna- yeah.
we did it at the LA Comedy Club, and we were taping a live show out there with Adam Hunter from MMA Roasted. We did a swapcast with him, and Demetrius was our guest. He was our live guest that night. So anyway, Frank got up and did 5 minutes. It was 10 minutes, really. It's probably closer to 10 minutes. He got up and did it, and but the behind-the-scenes story was so funny because he, over the course of months, when we'd been traveling on the road and stuff, these on-car drives and everything, we'd kicked around premises, and I said, okay, tell me what you got, and it's all him. I mean, I'm just, I'm going, yeah, maybe.
He didn't help out as much as I wanted him to.
Yeah, I was like, that's
Script this for me.
that's a funny premise. Maybe move this section here or whatever, but it's all his words. So we've been thinking about it for a while. So the time came, and we kind of committed to the date. And so a couple days before, I came over to the house, and now we're going to really workshop this thing, And he came out, and he had pages of notes, and I didn't want to say anything until he just got it all out.
I probably had about 90 different ideas.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Different
And so-
concepts. And I was even starting to have a flow chart. Okay, I'll go from here, I'll go from here, and this from here. And then look, I can hook back and refer to this later at this point. I'm like, so what do you think?
Yeah, and so I let him go through his whole thing. I mean, every
Probably
idea.
took
he
me
had.
about 45 minutes just to talk about it.
Yeah,
Jeez.
yeah. So he went through his whole thing, and do you remember what I said to you?
Yeah, he goes, we're going to have editing. He goes, you're going to learn a word. We're going to call it edit. We're going to have to do a lot of editing. He goes, it's a good thing. He goes, you have the same problem I have,
Brevity. He had his first 60-minute HBO special written, basically.
We're making money. The
Yeah.
Frank Mir.
And I said, okay, we got to get this done.
I was worried I didn't have enough.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, do I have enough? Do I have enough?
Yeah. And so I said, we got to get this down to about 10 minutes. He said, really? I said, yeah, trust me. 10 minutes is an eternity on a stand-up comedy stage. So then we did think, and he had a bit about, this is just show you an example of the brevity challenge. So he had a joke about being a bouncer at the Spearmint Rhino, right? A strip club here in Vegas. And so the original setup of his joke was, I used to work night shift security at a very popular strip club here in Las Vegas called the Spearmint Rhino. And he went through the whole setup, and I said, okay, so here's the problem with the setup is you're giving me a lot of information, but we're 45 seconds in, we don't have the joke yet. So I said, just say, so I was a bouncer at a strip club. And he goes, okay. And then he tried again. And he goes, So I was in charge handling security at a strip club known as the Spearmint. I'm like, no.
I did cut it down to calling it the Rhino at first.
Yeah.
So I called it the Rhino. That's a shorter version.
Yeah, and we must have done, I don't know, 8 or 9 takes of that.
At least.
Yeah, until we
I
finally.
was like, holy shit, I can't speak less. Yeah. I'm like, my whole life, I've been a wordy motherfucker.
Yeah. We've known this about you.
Yeah, like, look, man. I'm
Why
not.
do you and Angelo get along?
When I do say a sentence, I don't shut the fuck up. Like I go through it, so I'm like like this, and it's like no, right to the point. 10 words or less. I'm like fuck, I can't do that. I struggled.
But let me tell you something. It was so good. The day of the show, came over, kind of ran through everything, and he spent so much time working on this. And the thing is, he put all the time and effort in so he didn't have to use any notes, and then that's the thing. So you would cut a guy slack if it was his first time and he needed a little cheat sheet or whatever. Right. He had all the beats down, memorized everything. So I remember I was headed down to the Stratosphere and I texted him, how, are you all set to go? And he's like, yeah, I'm just trying to take a nap right now. And you said something like the text like, this is just like before a fight.
Yeah,
like he's going through all the same motions and everything.
The ups and downs of the adrenaline, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But it was so good. He did so good at it. And it was funny. And all the people, like the comedians that were there that I knew and the guys that ran the club and stuff like that, and they had seen other people who were not comedians attempt to do this type of thing. And they were all saying, they're like, this is good. Like, he's really good at this. And so now everybody's clamoring for a return engagement.
The return of Frank Mir at the LA Comedy Club.
No, we're definitely doing it again sooner than later. So stay tuned for that. Cool. All right, so that's what's up with us. Then we're going to let these guys close it out with any mentions they need to make. But you can follow us. It's John's favorite part of the podcast. You can follow us on social media. Him on Facebook at.
Oh wait,
official,
you're gonna do it?
Well, no, I do part of it.
Watch.
I do part.
I still get screwed up and have to talk about it.
I go.
Don't worry.
I do. You can follow me on Facebook at official Richard Hunter, Twitter and Instagram at Richard Hunter. He is on Facebook at official Frank Mir, Twitter and Instagram at the Frank Mir. And Frank, let's just say somebody like John or Cole Coffee or one of their MMA Roadshow listeners wanted to follow the show on social media. Where do they find us?
Well, on our Facebook and our Instagram, you can find us on Phone Booth Fighting. And if you want to find us on Snapchat or Twitter, it's just Phone Booth Fight.
That's it.
Nice. Being less forward-thinking professionals like yourselves,
people
we
just
don't
mail
really have
you a
any
letter,
paid
or what do you
appearances
do?
coming
Yeah,
up
I
or
was going to
anything
say
like
you
that.
could catch me all this week on my couch working from where I normally am. Where I'm normally at, I'll be there tomorrow. Bright
Couch
and
is a
early.
nice place, man.
Are you going to Mexico too, though, Ken?
No,
Oh, okay.
no. I will be. I'll be holding the fort down here.
Well, we will keep it doing like we do every week. I will
Well,
be in
maybe actually-
Mexico City. We got New York.
Maybe I'll get you to come to Moscow with or Russia in the ACB
We
fights.
might have to do that.
I think December 18th is their
December
50th.
is actually kind of slow month, believe it or not, for travel for the first time. Because November is crazy. Mexico City, New York, Brazil, and Australia. We'll be and Cole Coffee will be with me.
Well, you'll be used to the 12-hour flights. So.
Well,
By the way, if you guys haven't caught that yet, because I was watching it, when he did the ACB, Frank is amazing at commentating. Why you don't do it in the United States yet? I don't know. You made like some of those
Because you told
matches.
Brock Lesnar you'd kill him.
Let me just say, some of those matches, I was kind of like, this wouldn't really be that good of a match if it wasn't for Frank talking.
Yeah,
So
you
that
can
was
watch it
awesome.
on ACB's YouTube channel. It's up there right now.
When is that
So,
ACB again?
ACB, I think 50 is their – well, their 49 is their next one, November 26th. And then they have another one December 18th, which I think is their 50. And I don't know where that one – I have it in my phone where
It's the day after a SAC show.
One of the few spots in Russia. Russia's one of the few countries I haven't been to, man. I still want to.
Yeah, and they do the show also, too. They do it in England. They do it in Glasgow, Scotland.
Yeah, that was a great.
I want to go to the Glasgow one.
That venue's awesome.
All right, well, maybe catch me on that one, too.
Boy,
we'll be traveling partners. We'll hang out.
Mrs. Morgan will be happy to hear this news. She was looking forward to that slow December.
That one week
well,
off.
Yeah. We just went from one trip to 4. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. So how many times is MMA Roadshow just once a week?
Yeah. So if you're a phone booth fighting listener, we do every Thursday night. We put it up on Friday morning.
Yep.
And then every now and then, if we're on site together in an event, we'll usually do a little post-fight show. We call it and a half type edition. We add a little half episode. I screwed up by doing the half episodes because I thought they would just be little bonus ones every now and then. But then I really started liking doing 2 a week, a little pre-fight show, a little post-fight show. We'll take in some of the post-fight audio, some post-fight reaction, that sort of thing. But I screwed up because now I just get a half. We don't get to actually add it. But it helps me keep track of how many weeks. So 83 straight weeks
that's
that
awesome.
we've done the show. We don't
so
take
like
a break.
literally we've done like 120 some episodes, but we're on episode 83.
Well, as one of your subscribers, I'll tell you what I like that is. I think it's very.
And our new business manager, by the way.
And that, yes.
I don't know if we've actually made that official yet. But
we pay in alcohol, unfortunately.
I'll be like, oh, God, it's that guy that tries to sell me the John Morgan golf shirts all the time. He's got his backpack over his shoulder. I got that Square reader set up on my phone so I can take your credit card.
These ideas are genius.
He has a Square reader.
We take plastic
Oh no,
at the shows.
you can come to one of our live things and buy a T-shirt.
Really, the next time I'm on the road and somebody's like, "Man, bro, I love the podcast." I'm like, "Cool, support it right now." And I just hand them Square reader.
Exactly.
I got cards in my backpack when I travel.
Yeah. So what was I saying? I was saying that what I like about MMA Roadshow. I was going to say one of the things that I think is super unique about what you guys do is that it you have this niche of like it feels like it's wherever you are, that's where you are, that's what we're hearing, and you're getting it to us, and it always feels like super fresh, super recent, super hot, and I like that idea of like, we're in the hotel room after the fights or what, because that's the side of it that a lot of people don't get to hear. There's a ton of podcasts out there. There's a ton of MMA podcasts out there, and most of them take place in a studio. But just like you and I are out here on the back porch, it's called the MMA Roadshow for a reason, and you guys are on the road.
No, man, that means a lot to me. That was kind of our concept. We like I said, at the end of the day, I just wanted an excuse to. I love talking MMA, man. I love talking MMA. I love the sport, and just a chance to sit down and have a frosty beverage and talk MMA with a buddy of mine, and to put it on tape and to put it out there and to talk to people, it meant a lot to me. And I was like, but yeah, why would anybody want to listen to that? You know what I mean? Like you said, there's so many podcasts, there's so many MMA podcasts. And I thought, well, wait a minute. We're the only dumbasses that are flying around the world doing this stuff. Like maybe we can bring people, audio and stories. What happened at the hotel today? What was going on behind the scenes? That's what I thought, and I thought that would be our unique angle. And I appreciate you recognizing that and realizing that. It means a lot.
Very cool.
Absolutely. And finally, thanks to everybody who hung with us on the video stream tonight, streaming on the Phone Booth Fighting Facebook page. If you want to see that and you're hearing this after the fact, it'll be archived on the Phone Booth Fighting Facebook page, facebook.com/Phone Booth Fighting. So, guys, thanks for coming over and doing this. Angelo, thank you for brokering the summit, if you will.
I just made a Russia trip happen right here.
Yeah.
You're now
Probably
the new business manager.
Yeah, no, he will.
As they do in the boxing world.
I realized how Angelo one time. What was that fight you predicted correctly? I was at the Pittsburgh.
Which one? Because
I know.
Correctly,
I know. There was some. We were out doing a live show, and I said something about, oh my God, Angelo picked the winner of that fight, and he must have sent me 4 texts about.
I was there with you. He blew your phone.
Oh no! I said Bisping would beat Anderson Silva by decision.
And here's the funny thing. So I said it. Now we're in a bar, right? I said it. Oh my God, yeah, my phone was going crazy the other night, and there's like 4 other MMA media guys just at the bar that had come to watch the broadcast, and they all held up their phone, and they're like, tell me, I got those messages too.
That's right. So what is it? Is it DraftKings? If DraftKings would like to hire me for my predictions, I'm available at Reyes Boxing on
I'm
Instagram.
just going to say, if Angelo ever asked to add you on WhatsApp, think about it carefully. All right?
You'll be stuck in a group, huh?
Oh, well, what a delight this has been. Let's do it again soon.
Yeah,
what do you say, guys?
I agree. It's a lot of
All
fun.
right. Thanks for having us. Good night, everybody.
And as we say, thanks for listening.
Hello, Richard. Richard, are you there?
That's the one thing I was.
Richard.
John, this is the only thing scarier than it is any average week over here is now there's somebody where they're passing it back and forth.
Passing weaponry right in front of you.
It's bad enough when it's being twirled around. See what you think.
Can you hear me okay?
This is what we
John?
do on a typical Wednesday night. We just break out the cigars and frosty beverages, talk guns.
Yeah, that's what we do.
You guys are so manly. You guys are so manly.
If we had a stripper pole, we'd all be in trouble. Are we live right now too?
Yeah,
We are. Everybody's just watching us dick around.
Can they hear us?
Oh, they can hear you.
They can hear us say
They can hear you.
that John Morgan is the sexiest media guy in
Wow.
all of MMA.
And then they immediately tune out because they're like, this guy's not telling the truth. So.